Me too.
All I do is clap, 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 clap.
No matter what. I got clapping on my mind. I can never clap.
My cheeks
enough.
go up. Stay there.
Up, down, up, down, up.
That's a different song. Do we want to do?
Okay, I don't know.
Do you want to do 5 seconds? Is everybody there?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know whose chair squeaked leading up to their clap, but it made it very dramatic.
I was like,
probably me.
That?
I was dancing.
I have a semi-squeaky chair, but
It might have been.
Oh, mine's kind of squeaky. Sorry.
It was like a
unfortunately
clap.
I don't have the funds for a.
We need to get a gamer chair sponsor to get you some less squeaky chairs.
Oh my gosh!
Gamer
please.
chairs are no less squeaky.
Oh.
You want
Yeah, but I want one that's really cute. Is the thing.
If you want a not squeaky
my chair's
chair,
boring.
you gotta shell out.
My gamer
RGB
chair back in
chairs.
the States was only.
I don't even have a gamer chair or a desk chair. I use
leather
this
squeaky
IKEA table chair.
Hell yeah.
Okay, now I remember what I was gonna.
Do you use that while you're working?
Yep.
But get a better chair. You need a better chair before you get.
Yeah, working from home, like I need a desk chair.
Jenna won't let me get a chair with wheels because it'll ruin the carpet.
Does Lenovo make a chair?
Get a mat.
Like,
mat.
send you a...
Yeah, there's mats. Like they're really.
It's really bad for you to sit in a table chair for 8 hours a day.
It's true.
Sure. I
Really
feel
bad for you to sit for 8 hours a day in general, but
Yeah, but
Yeah, I want a standing desk, but there's none that are thin enough to go in this space.
yeah.
I want one that adjusts from standing to sitting, but there's no way to do that without spending like $5,000. Which
those are really nice.
I had one that was hand
build it
cranked.
yourself.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a hand cranked one that was really good.
Yeah, my work ones
And
have.
then what about your desk chair?
What about it?
What do you do with it
He
when
said
it's
he
standing?
had a hand crank one. I was making a masturbation joke.
Oh.
Yeah, cranking it. Got it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I thought that was already. I thought that was like self-evident. I thought
Cranking it was implied.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like you didn't have to. You didn't have to say anything about it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I was
It's
trying to
just the
tidy
truth
up
of
so
truth
that
of the
I get shouted
universe.
at.
Like we all knew. I thought we were all on the same page about.
What cranking it means?
Yeah, like he
Give
said,
any
like hand
context.
cranked and
That's
yeah.
the only
Like,
meaning
Yeah.
of the word crank.
I mean, I didn't say like nice, but like, come on, like
All I want to do is crank, 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 crank.
Every time the number
starring Jason Statham.
69 comes up at work, which is a lot, I have to avoid saying nice, and it is frustrating.
I just say nice, and then everyone around.
You know what's
rolls their
great?
eyes.
You know what's great? I can say nice, and nobody knows what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, I just
Well,
talk to a lot
like,
of
nice
like
to-
old people, so they'll be like, "What?" and I'll be like, "Oh shit."
It's just for me, and I can say like open to page 69, and then they do it. I'm like nice. And it's what I would normally do, but it's I can do that for any page. Great, but I can it's great.
Pretty certain that Zoom is picking up my headset, not my thingy. Oh no, it's picking up the Yeti. I don't know why you guys could hear me when I was across the room, but that's fine.
Well, Yetis have.
You sounded quiet, so
pattern.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready.
So,
Let's do
okay.
this.
I'm also ready.
Hi, ready. I'm Andre.
Let's clap this podcast.
We already did.
Hello. Hello, and welcome to the Gaming Fyx podcast, episode 190 on September 18th, 2021. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka The Wet Gamer, aka your partner's favorite IKEA furniture. I'm joined today by Allison.
ooh, I've had good luck with IKEA furniture. Like my apartment is all IKEA furniture, and it's working out pretty well. My dining room table is a very lovely IKEA furniture. So
What's it called?
I honestly don't remember.
Damn.
Sorry, I do not
Alex.
remember, but I just have like nothing but IKEA furniture in here.
It's okay. Alex.
I have been using the same IKEA lamp for like the past 7 years, and it's
Okay.
what's directly behind my my desk, and lights me up for this podcast. So
No,
that one.
Great. Hey, it's great. Pat.
Totally don't remember what it's called.
Love a Billy bookcase. That's
Okay.
basically the peak. You don't. It's minimalist. It looks good enough, and it's under $100. You can't go wrong. I'm looking at the photos on the page. There's like this beautifully lit. It looks like Lara Croft's manor from the first Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie, and it's just filled with Billy bookcases. It's glorious.
How tall is it? Is it like a tall bookcase? Is it like a waist high? Is it a
No, it's tall. It's
okay? So it's like a
Billy has multiple
6 foot or
sizes.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some that are kind of wider, some that are kind of taller.
Yeah, there's some that are multiple
You can
sizes.
get it
We
in
have
a
one with
birch
doors on it.
veneer, a black brown color or white.
Yeah. Speaking out of turn, Sam.
If you're going to talk about IKEA furniture, you have to talk to the person whose wife goes to IKEA 4 to 5 times a year at least, and that's
We
me.
talk about going to IKEA 4 to 5 times a month, and then we have not yet gone to the IKEA that is near here.
So
She goes at least once every other month. She buys a lot of stuffed toys for Peter there.
I used to
Okay.
live about
yeah.
20 minutes from an IKEA, and we would go all the time, and it was exhausting, and I hated it. But
I didn't even mention that my rugs in my apartment are IKEA, and they're like honestly really beautiful. Like
there's some good stuff there. There's
like,
a
you
chair.
can't tell that they're IKEA, but I'm like they're honestly like really
I
nice
want to
quality.
say it's the Poang chair that is like a favorite among racing sim people. If you want like a budget chair to sit in with a wheel stand.
Yeah, and the reason that this came up is before that we were recording, we were talking about figure collecting and how literally every single person in figure collecting uses the DEATHLOOP cabinet. It's like there's good stuff there.
I just want to touch on how like Sam ran out of the room and came back
Like
with,
a goblin.
He did run out like a goblin and came back with like a 5 foot long shark.
Yeah.
Like it was like life size.
Yeah.
That was and then
Honestly?
he wagged it around like it was gonna like holding up a bank. Like nobody move.
I got a stuffed shark.
So
I don't
what's
know.
up
It looked pretty lifelike to me.
what's up with the IKEA restaurant? I've never been.
Do they
Oh, it's like super cheap.
horse meatballs or whatever?
Yeah, it's really cheap, but it's pretty good.
Was there like monkey
They have
in
good
the
vegan
meatballs or
options.
something?
Yeah, was it
Like
horse meat?
cafeteria. It's like cafeteria
Cafeteria.
style. Like you just kind of go up and pick out your stuff and then check out and sit and eat it. I don't know. It's not very good.
I haven't
it's
been in
fine.
like
It's no Costco hot dog.
I haven't been in at least like 15, 16 years. So I don't remember, but I remember liking it. And
I
thinking it
have
was pretty
friends
good
who
for
thought
how
of
cheap it
going
is.
to IKEA as like a day out sort of thing. Like we go to IKEA and get lunch there, and the reason we would get lunch there is because we'd be at IKEA for like 4 hours, and that was awful.
Oh yeah.
That's what
Because I
Fiona
don't-
does. She goes for the day.
I don't understand that. Like, I'm not picking on Fiona, and I don't know if this is Fiona's reasoning. I think my friends just wanted to live in the model apartments so fucking bad that if they just spent the day around them and sitting in them, they could feel like they lived there.
My mom really loves the like, oh, this is what you could do with a tiny space.
Yes,
Apartments.
exactly.
My mom
exactly.
loves those. And like, oh, if you lived in a, 250 square foot apartment in New York City, you could make this work. And my mom loves that.
And I love seeing it once. And I love seeing like tiny house videos and stuff. Like I love to see different unique living situations that are like pretty and cool and small, or not even as small. But it's not it's not a museum.
Right.
It's a bunch of products arranged on a set. Like it doesn't change. You go there one time, and it's not like it's like I know I've been there 10 times, but I just need to see the Detolf again. Like, I get going to art museums over and over again to see the same things, but you don't
Oh,
need to
yeah,
go to IKEA for that.
No, I agree.
It's weird. Also, does your wife drive there, Sam?
She drives. Yeah,
Okay,
she drives
okay,
there.
okay,
We're
okay.
about 40 minutes away.
I wasn't sure.
And by the way, she goes and measures things. So when her primary activity is to look at the furniture online and then go measure it in person, even though the measurements are on the online
I was just gonna
listings.
say, yeah.
Let's be
She
honest.
says that they're not accurate enough.
There's nothing.
They're never more than millimeters
What
out.
she is doing
Millimeters.
is wanting to go somewhere else other than your home for a day. And that is
No, because she does it. She did it before lockdown. She's been doing it the whole time we've been together for 7 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Sometimes you can just go out and walk around a place.
Yes.
So you need to go out, buy furniture, and then a year later sell it on Facebook for £5 and buy new furniture for the same space.
It's why sometimes I take the long route when I'm going to like the game store. It's just because I want to like drive around a little more. I want to not be at home for a little bit longer. Not because of anything bad at home, just because I'm there a lot.
Oh yeah, it's kind of part of why I really like taking the public transit everywhere. Is that it's just like, oh, I just get to sit for a while and I'm not in my apartment.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm still sitting. It's like it's great.
Why? Where better to do it than on IKEA furniture?
Well, speaking of Sam and his wife, we should probably get Sam talking here about his games before he has to take care of a baby as his wife returns home. So Sam, I hear you've been playing a game you really like.
Yeah, I played and finished a game that I absolutely loved.
Unheard of for you.
Yes. I feel like I'm pretty positive on most games. However, I think that this one, especially this year. So, like, obviously, at the beginning of the year, I played Cold Steel 4 and East 9, which I did really like. But I think I've not played a game that's grabbed me like this since maybe Hades. So I'm talking about Square Enix's new release, Life is Strange: True Colors. So there's a review of it that I wrote that's on the site right now, where I
Fix.space.
Yeah, Fix.space, where I kind of gush about it in a completely spoiler-free way. The listing for the game on the PlayStation Store spoils more of the story than I do, and it basically spoils the cliffhanger in Chapter 1 of the 5 chapters of the game. Unlike previous Life is Strange's, it is episodic still, but it's all released in one shot. So you can start to finish that game without having to like wait around for new episodes to come out. They've made a couple of changes to the game from previous Life is Strange's. So like, I assume everyone here has played at least some of one Life is Strange game. I think most people played the first one, like that was really popular. And the format of Life is Strange was very much like the format of kind of old school adventure games, but kind of translated to like a 3D environment. So you would be going from like scene to scene, and when you accomplish the objective in the scene, you leave it and you don't come back. Where Life is Strange: True Colors is different, is they give you this very, very small open town, and whenever you load into, like, whenever you play the game, you can go anywhere and you can talk to anyone. So instead of being like Max is in her dorm room and she can look at her photo albums and these notes and these things, and she can talk to Chloe on the phone, like you can leave your apartment and go and talk to Riley at the flower shop about her shitty boyfriend, or you can talk to Eleanor and help her sort something out. Like there's like these 10 like people who all live in the town, and they're all really, really strong characters. It kind of reminds me of Forgotten City in that way, in that there's this like very small area with this set cast of characters, and they all have like really great, strong personalities. They're all quite like visually cool as well. Like the graphics of the game and the like visuals of the characters are really, really awesome. I don't want to like monologue on this for too long. Is anyone else interested in playing this?
Hearing that it's open like that is definitely the thing I was hoping it would be. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in it with that in mind.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely interested in playing it at some point. There's just like so many games.
Is it
Yeah.
on Game Pass?
No, that
No.
was
Yeah.
the
Okay.
one in Alaska with the trans character that I
Yep. I knew
can't
that.
Tell me
remember
why.
the name of. Tell me
yeah.
why. Yeah.
I knew that one was. I wasn't sure if this was also
That was free over Pride as well last year and this year, which is nice.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Does
This
this-
is a new developer. So this comes from Deck 9,
the Before
who
the Storm
made
people.
Life is Strange Before the Storm.
The
and
union
it-
busting game.
It features a character from Before the Storm as well. It's very interesting because like there's basically like 3 main characters. Only one playable, obviously. Go behind the monitor, Gus. Okay, fine. A cat causing absolute havoc here.
Where does this game take place?
It takes
like,
place in Colorado.
Okay.
So it's like this very small Colorado mountain town that is kind of like an ex-mining town where like a load of like kind of horrible mining stuff happened a very long time ago, but the mining company's still around, but they've switched to mining uranium instead of like the traditional mining stuff like coal.
Is this a big plot point in the game? Like, you don't have to spoil anything, but is this like uranium is a major pivotal thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
So the other thing that I haven't really mentioned is in every Life is Strange game, like there's some sort of supernatural element. And in True Colors, Alex can see people's emotions and feelings as like an aura of color. So she'll be like, okay, this person is scared, they have turned purple, basically, or they're sad, they've turned blue. And if she gets close to somebody physically who is experiencing a really strong emotion, then she takes that emotion on. So like Alex grows up in the foster system due to events that are kind of explained later in the game. So like she comes into a lot of people who are very, very angry or people that are extremely depressed. And it really, really affects her life. And she sees her kind of ability as like a real curse. She doesn't see any like positives from it. And a lot of the game is like learning to like trust and use her ability for her as a character, and kind of like finding this home. Like she's never really had a home before. You look through, like she's got text messages on her phone. You can look back through all the old messages for like years. And they're all about like, oh, hey, can I crash at your place? Like foster dad is an asshole and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, like I absolutely love the game. I love the character Alex. Like I'm really, really sad that Life is Strange is an anthology series and we probably won't see her again.
I think that can change depending on.
I would really hope so. I absolutely fell in love with that character. They do they end it in a way that they're like, if they didn't come back to this, you kind of know what's happening. You like every Life is Strange, you get final choices.
Someday they're going to do the Bon Iver version of Avengers where all of these characters come together
Avengers
to heal someone's mental trauma who is set to, I don't know, do a terrorism or something.
I'm sorry, the Bon Iver version of Avengers is just killing me right now.
The soundtrack is very good if you like that sort of music. Bon Iver, the
so
Shins.
please don't think this is me being too much. But
it's just so perfectly
I bet-
descriptive.
I bet they'll
They
also
played,
do. They might do like a Life is Strange Brotherhood and a Life is Strange Revelations, so you can get more of your
Exactly.
Alex / Ezio.
You send the person who listens to Alt J to go heal divides in Sierra Nevada, and you send the Bon Iver people to go to the Pacific Northwest to, I don't know, clean up an oil spill or something.
They should set A Life is Strange at the gathering of the Juggalos.
Now we're talking.
Yes.
There is a festival
Ooh.
and a LARP in
Alice's
True
camera
Colors.
froze for me when you said that, and it made it look like when you suggested Gathering of the Juggalos, she was really pissed off at you.
No, I think that's a great idea. I would love that. Oh.
It's still
very
frozen
funny.
for me, but
Yeah.
Same.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
The soundtrack is excellent
I'm
as
just
well,
still
by the
really
way.
pissed off.
If you're interested in games with like strong folk indie rock soundtracks, it's very good. Although there was one point where they played they played Thank You by Dido, which is the singing from the Eminem song Stan. And as it started, I was like, oh no, you're not doing that, are you? And I was like chuckling to myself as they played Dido over a very emotional moment.
I think if they played Eminem in this game, I would probably just quit and request refunds.
If they did a Detroit version of Life is Strange.
I mean, you could, but
Yeah.
that
Oh,
is not this
100%.
But yeah, like the small town setting is incredible. It's so like it feels like I said this in the review. It feels like one of the most real places I've ever been in a video
That's great.
game.
Yeah.
That's fun.
They do a good job of that in the at least the first Life is Strange. I haven't played the second one, and I've always wanted to go back and finish it. I just always fall off around episode 3 because the linearity of the environments paired with characters that I don't really identify with. I see why other people did, and they're not bad characters by any means, but for me it's like there's not enough there for me to really get invested in those characters. And then it's also like the puzzles are very linear and simple. That's
what I was going to say, is that for me I always fell off because the puzzles were never engaging. I was like, these puzzles feel just mechanical. It's like I see exactly what I have to do, but the execution is going to take 5 minutes.
It's clearly good, like everything about the first Life is Strange, which is again the only one I've played, but it's all good. And I get why people liked it, but none of it specifically grabbed me. So I've always had a hard time getting through it. But this one, the more open nature of the environment, I think just the town itself might be enough to keep me interested and invested.
Does True Colors have a lot of puzzles, or is it more about the interactions and like, figuring stuff out and interacting with people rather than doing environmental puzzles?
There's probably there's not really puzzles in terms of like you have to work out how to use your power to get X to Y, but there are things where like a lot of it's like dialogue based, so it's more adventure gamey in kind of almost like the Telltale sense, where it's like, so say there's one section where you're trying to distract somebody to get a USB stick from them, and because the USB stick has information about the big conspiracy in the game on it, and you get the choice of whether to try and distract her with your male friend or your female friend, which is very funny because the female friend's like, no, I'm sure she's gay, we should try this out, and then so you like go and sit over and you kind of read her with your emotion power, and then you're like, oh, okay, she's feeling this. What in the environment can I draw her attention to increase that feeling so that she'll be distracted? And then there's certain bits where like there's one character who is having like I don't want to spoil that bit really, to be honest, because it's cool when you get to it.
It's because fleet foxes have disappeared and you gotta find them.
You go and meet somebody who's like really, really angry. And a lot of it is like when someone's feeling an emotion really strongly, you can go and see the world how they see it. And then you can refer to things. You can like bring up stuff that you find by looking at their emotional world in a conversation with them. So it's almost all conversation based. And like, if you look at all the interactable things in a room and then talk to somebody, you'll have a new option for dialogue that might be the right thing to say. or you'll have multiple new options for dialogue that might be the right thing to say to calm that person down. To like there's one, you speak to a girl who's like your friend who's like really sad because of an event that happens early in the game, and it's all about trying to cheer her up basically and trying to make her feel better. So there's some really cool bits. Like during the LARP section of the game, they have turn-based combat, as if it was a Final Fantasy, and like the camera angle turns so that they're stood on opposite sides of the screen and stuff, which is really, really smart and funny. Yeah, it's an excellent. I really, really loved it. Like the way that you were talking about, Alex, like how you didn't like the puzzle stuff. It may not hit with you because of that sort of thing. Like it's not explicitly like there is a solution and you can do this solution. Like you can make mistakes and like characters get angry at you and then they won't help you later in the game when you need help and things like that. A lot of it is more relationship building, but there is some more like some of the mechanicsy stuff is still there.
Right. So that's Life is Strange: True Colors, out now. Review once again up on Fyx.space. Pat.
I was really hoping to play the remastered collection prior to this, but that got delayed till 2022. So I think I'm not like itching to play this one, so I'll probably just kind of wait and check out that remastered collection, because it's one of those, like, even if it doesn't grab me, the fact that it's a PS5 game will be enough to pull me through, because there's not enough stuff to play on PS5.
Yep.
So
if you buy the deluxe True Colors, you get the remaster collection with it.
Cool. Yeah.
So
if that deal is still going, I'm gonna do that.
I definitely want to play Before the Storm because I want to see where the Steph character comes from. Yeah. I didn't feel very attached to her during the game, and I wonder if a lot of that is because they're hoping you have played the previous game, so they don't do as much character work with her.
I do genuinely want to play 2
unions,
at some point too, because 2 is supposed to be really cool.
Yeah.
I fell off 2 like real strongly, but
yeah. Before we transition, because I know Andre's the master of transitions, what platform did you play it on?
I played on PS5. It is one of the best looking stylistically games I've played on PS5. I talk about this a little bit in the review, but there's times where you can like sit down and reflect on what's going on. So like there's like a sofa in your apartment and a seat on the roof, and there's like a dock on the lake, and you can sit on all of those and like have like a little moment to yourself where like a song will play and Alex will do a little bit of narration about how she's feeling, and the narration usually lasts like 10-20 seconds. It's pretty short, and then but I would sit there and like listen to the song and just look at how amazing the game looked for the whole song every single time.
That's cool.
So yeah, unfortunately I have to go because my child is here to be taken care of. Hey, but it's been very good chatting about Life is Strange to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
you for
joining.
Letting us know.
Say hi to baby Todd Howard.
Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.
Ask him about Starfield.
Everyone should give a shot to Life is Strange, especially if it comes to Plus, or they give the first chapter away or something. Definitely,
for sure.
Give it a shot.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
They usually put the first chapter out for free, like a little bit after it comes out. But all right,
cool.
Well,
bye, everyone.
We'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye.
I will not lie that part of if Life is Strange came out for like $30, I probably would have bought it already, but I'm sure it's well worth $60. But seeing that it was full priced was like,
what?
Yeah,
what?
I was like, oh, there's a lot of stuff coming out. I don't know that I have the budget
There's like so many video games right now.
It was like
I did not know that it was a $60 game.
It is, yeah.
That Kings of Leon licensed music is not cheap.
Yeah, I'm sure. And again, I'm not one to hem and haw about game prices. I'm sure that it's well worth
atypical of the series.
Yeah,
and also just like I don't know, there's like a million games.
Yeah.
Yes.
I spent $100 on Deathloop. So
did I. I spent $100 on one version of Deathloop.
I bought 2 standard copies, but we'll come back to Deathloop maybe, or whatever. We're here. We'll talk about Deathloop now.
Go for it.
I almost had a great transition.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
what's
please.
the transition?
Well, it's not to Deathloop, so let's just go to Deathloop.
No, we can
well,
transition to your thing.
No, I was gonna say, know what else is surprisingly a full-priced like $70 game here in Canada?
Genshin Impact.
WarioWare, get it together.
Really? It's a full
Yeah.
price game there?
Yeah,
Because
it's
it's
basically
$50
$60.
here.
Exactly.
Oh.
I saw that people were talking about how it's 50 in the States. I was like, that was a full-price game here.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, that
Well,
is weird.
Do we want to talk about Deathloop or WarioWare?
Yeah, let's go to Deathloop. Let's go back to WarioWare.
Okay, cool.
If there are two versions now. I'm looking at it. The download version. No, wait. What is this? Okay, whatever.
I don't know. WarioWare?
WarioWare, but that's we don't have to worry about it. Deathloop, my most anticipated game of the year by far.
It
We've been
was
talking
at
about
one
that for a
point for me.
while.
Yeah, I've been stoked for it since it was announced, and like because Arcane does great work. Like personally, my appreciation goes back to Dishonored. That's where I got on the Arcane train, but they've been doing great stuff since before that. And this is their time loop game on an island where you can invade other people. Like got some asymmetric multiplayer. Is it asymmetric? I guess
It
yes,
is.
because it's
Yeah,
not.
it's
It's not the same. It's just usually when I think asymmetric, I think like 3-on-1 or whatever. But yeah, it's
No, yeah,
because you're
still
doing different
asymmetric.
stuff. It's
If you're doing different things, then
yeah. So yeah, this game has been kicking around for a while, and Sony exclusive for now, despite the Bethesda acquisition or Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda and all
Sony
its
for
subsidiaries,
consoles.
including yes. Also,
Yeah.
me buying 2 copies because my TV appeared to be broken, and I went, well, the day before this game came out, I was like, I can't not play it, and I didn't want to have to move my PS5 and all that shit. So I bought 2 copies, and I don't regret my decision because I want to support Arcane for this kick-ass game they've made.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think people didn't respect Arcane enough coming into this game, which led to some of the, I don't want to say hyperbole, but it's very much like building on what they've been doing.
Yeah, there's not really
like the immersive sim stuff.
Yeah. Well, and it's
So-
an interesting one because I would not call this game an immersive sim in any way, really.
I would say it's just as much as like a Dishonored or,
It's actually made me reframe
Prey,
those
but-
games too. Prey, I think, is much more of an immersive sim because it is more contiguous and
sure it's
because they're
a singular-ish space.
and things like minor spoilers for Prey, but most of the enemies that I think like all of the enemies you encounter, they're like tied to, or not necessarily, that's not even the right way to put it. When you find a body of a crew member in Prey, it's a person who has like emails on terminals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is an immersive sim.
Mm-hmm.
This game, you're not like scouring around for bits of junk to look at in this game, really. I mean, you're looking at like papers and there's audio logs, but it's much more like a BioShock kind of situation, not so much like a Deus Ex where it's like, I found this one thing in a drawer that's like an object, a key that I'm going to go use on the other side of the map. In the same way. Doesn't mean that it's like somehow
it's
less good than anything else.
It's like this is like a roguelike situation almost. Like it's definitely like removed from that, but it's the closest like genre wise, like I think that's the easiest spot to put it in because it's sharing a lot of to me. I think
sure.
Yeah.
Andre,
it's sharing a lot of DNA with all that stuff. So
sure.
Yes,
so
that's
Andre,
for sure true.
Question: when you're talking about this kind of being the Arcane game, would you kind of see it as being like the Arcane equivalent of like a Skyrim, in that like they finally found their stride, they found their they built the game that it seems like they've been wanting to build for years and years, and here it is?
No, because they made Dishonored 2, they made Dishonored 1, they made Dishonored 2, they made Prey.
Those are all
like
great.
They've been like fucking knocking out bangers for a while.
That's the thing is I don't think this game is some culmination of different things. It's just one more spin on the thing that
and
they've
it's
been doing
like
for a long time.
It's really tight. It's like, you know, there are parts where I'm like, oh, I wish this had been different, but like the way they designed the game is like totally fine. It's just, I expected this game to be more open, like more of a single contiguous space like Prey was, but it's divided up into like 4 areas.
We should say too, like the premise of the way this game works is after you get through all the tutorials and stuff, you have a goal to kill 8 different targets in one day. And they're spread across 4 discrete levels. And when you start the day, it's morning, and you pick which level you want to go to for the morning time slot. And then you pick which level you want to go to for afternoon, or for noon, then afternoon, then evening. So you have these 4 time slots, and you have to figure out how to kill 8 people in 4 time slots. And so the thing that I don't want to say I'm disappointed in, because I really like the game, but the thing that I was expecting was for it to be a little more like Hitman, where it was like, okay, I could snipe someone from across the island, basically. Like if I got a high-powered sniper rifle and found a tower, I could maybe kill someone in a totally different area, and that's how I'll deal with it. Instead, it's much more like if Hitman only had the assassination stories, where the way you're going to kill 2 people in one map, because obviously you're going to have to kill 2 people on each map because there's 8 of them, is you go through a series of investigative steps to figure out when and why 2 people and where 2 people are going to be together, and then get the drop on them and kill them. And it's definitely makes it feel less like a sandbox. It doesn't feel open to me, both in terms of the map, like the openness of Prey isn't quite there. The maps themselves are pretty big and open, so it still has openness in terms of its spaces, but it doesn't really feel like it's designed for you to figure out ways to get these specific kills that are unique and interesting. But it also has a lot of other aspects to it than just killing those characters.
You're trying to set up like the assassin story, but you're trying to gather all the information across all these maps,
and that's where it's fun.
Like, you're basically trying to set the clockwork into motion, but because it's a time loop. After, at the end of the day, you restart at the beginning of the day, and then you go through it again. Or if you die, go back to the start of the day, and so you keep whatever information you.
It's almost
find.
like Outer Wilds is like board in the ship, which is kind of cool. Your like journal screen.
Yeah. And so you're going through and you're like, okay, well, I've got this. I found this this passcode for a thing on another map. So now I can go to this other map and use this passcode to get into this bunker, and then find some clues to the story, or like another hint for how I can like make a target vulnerable, because they're only vulnerable at certain times, and different stuff like that.
Interesting, we're talking about, I'm not going to spoil anything actually, but like minor little spoiler thing, but like there's times when in order to progress one of the leads for how to get 2 people together, you are like looking at a photograph and trying to determine where it was taken. Exactly. You're trying to determine where Chad Kroger is on the map so he can sing them a song.
Got it.
No, but like it's like,
one of those characters basically could be Chad Kroger.
Yes, you're not
actually.
You're not getting a marker to just go here and look at something. It's like, okay, I have to figure out where this picture was taken. I know the map it was taken on, and that kind of stuff is really interesting. And I think they do a good job of, even though
that's cool.
And I think this is something I see through a little bit, which was a minor letdown for me, but I think they do a pretty good job of making you feel like you're really investigating rather than just following a series of breadcrumbs. And that's cool. And what is one of the things that's really neat is, so there's this whole system of saving gear from day to day. And there's basically Destiny exotics in this game that you can find. And those are sometimes it's just that the people you're trying to kill have them, but sometimes it's much more like you actually have to kind of explore off the beaten path and find it. And that is the stuff that I think really makes this game shine, because it it almost feels like it's saying, hey, there's breadcrumbs for you to follow if you're somebody who's new to this kind of genre of like stealth shooter, kind of immersive sim. I shouldn't be too harsh to say like it's absolutely not an immersive sim, but like that kind of like more complex open shooter. Here's these breadcrumbs to take you on the critical path, but also for people like me who I have played a lot of these games, it's one of my favorite genres. I have interesting reasons to try to explore all the different parts of the map and actually find stuff. And I certainly wish that there was a little more like, oh, you found a key that lets you into an apartment and it's basically just a good sightline kind of stuff that you get in some other games, but it's not. I think what's there is interesting, and the like arsenal stuff that you can find is very cool. And the way you build out your character is very cool from run to run. And run is even a weird way to put it, because it's not like a roguelike in that you're dying all the time and starting over. I've never run out of, you have like 3 lives basically, or 2-3 respawns per map. I've never died enough. This game is not that hard from unless you are in the multiplayer. It can be, but generally it's not that hard.
Most of my deaths have been stupid things like falling. I tried to jump across a thing and I like, oh, I didn't make it or whatever. I think I've died to enemies like 2 or 3 times maybe in 8 hours, and all of those times I've gotten right back up, then mowed them all down and picked up my stuff, because it's not that hard to fight the enemies. And one thing that is cool is because it's got like that immersive sim DNA in it, there are like a bunch of ways to tackle each like map and like section of the map. Like if you want to go stealthy, or if you just want to go loud, or do all this different stuff, because you're going back to these places to like try and do different things or find new information, or you get a new hint that takes you back there. There's actually like more of a reason to like, and an excuse to see everything and explore everything. Whereas like if you play through a Dishonored level, you might not necessarily be thinking like, oh, I'm going to play again and like do a chaos, like a high chaos route. So then you don't see like everything the map has to offer, but this incentivizes you to see more like everything that the game has to offer. I think Dishonored is like, the good ending is the low chaos ending. There's not really any arguing about that. And so when I played Dishonored, I was very much like, I'm doing low chaos and I'm save scumming when I fuck up and and it's fine, because the shooting in Dishonored is not what you're there for. Like getting into the combat is not what you're playing Dishonored for. But it is kind of like, well, I played it once and I don't really want to go back through it, because I don't really want to get the bad ending anyway. And I already got the good ending. This game is neat because there is no like chaos concept. Instead, it's actually like, you're literally told by the game, stab all these motherfuckers. Yes, it's all the time. Stab everyone, like, kill everyone. These people. One, because they're all awful. There is no well, this guard works for the fascists, but he's doing his job and like he's just following orders. There is none of that. All these people are here by choice. There's no are we the baddies? No, they're all bad guys. So you don't feel bad about killing them at all. In fact, there is not a non-lethal option in this game. No. There is no way to play through it non-lethally. And I think when you realize, not that you can't play it with stealth and be really careful, but I started to have more fun with it when I realized like, no, this run, I'm just going to open up. Who fucking cares? I'm blowing these people away. I'll get all my weapons back. I'll get all my ammo back. And that is unique for an Arcane game, I think, and is fun because it's very antithetical to both Dishonored's desire for you to play stealth, which is cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with that in those games. And Prey is very much a game that wants you to feel like every encounter is a challenge and is like resource scarcity. Yes, it's almost more of a survival horror game. It's certainly an immersive sim, but it's also a survival horror game in a sense, whereas Deathloop is a shooter with stealth, and stealth is always a viable way to play it, but it is a first person shooter kind of first and foremost, which is cool. I think it's a nice change of pace. And on that topic of it being a first person shooter, is on the PS5 and on PC too, if you have a DualSense, this, like the DualSense haptics and stuff, feels great. It feels awesome to
That's
be
cool.
like,
I got to plug my DualSense in and play it some.
That's cool.
the only thing that doesn't work on PC is the radio calls don't come out of the controller speaker.
Sure.
But all the haptics, all that stuff works exactly how it's supposed to. Like the guns feel good on the controller. I like my hands don't get tired. Like I've heard people make that complaint about like some first person shooters, but that's more like competitive ones. Call of Duty, for example, people complain. I've heard people complain about that. Like this is like Ratchet and Clank. I was like, whatever, it's kind of fine. But because the shooting is so, at least the way I'm playing, like I'm not shooting constantly, but I'll get into gunfights. And so then when I've got like the controller shaking and like there's tension on the triggers, it feels really cool and engaging at that point. And then I can take a break from it and it's not so difficult.
The other thing that helps that stuff is there is no saves coming in this game. Like you don't need it. And so when you do get into a like, oh crap, I've alerted this whole group of people, your options are to like run away and hide, which is viable, or just try to shoot it out. And it's fun that it pushes you out of, like I had one instance where I was in an area that was like extremely hot. There was one of the visionaries, the like the targets you're supposed to kill. I was trying to get intel on him. And I just alerted people by doing something stupid. And I'm like hiding in the rafters of this building, and there's like 10 people all on a balcony, like looking in my general direction. And if I try to move in any way, they're going to see me. There's not a good escape route. So I just was like, fuck it. And I threw a grenade at them and it killed like all of them in one grenade, and it ruled. And in a Dishonored game, I would have just reloaded. I wouldn't have gone down that route. Instead, I killed all of them with a grenade and then just sprinted to the exit while another 30 guys chased after me. And it was awesome. And so you still get those emergent moments, even though the critical path is not really a sandbox. You still get those kind of emergent gameplay moments when you screw up and there's stuff happening. And there's also cool moments like, and this is what they do the thing I was hoping for, with hoping it was one big contiguous space where I could pull a lever on one side of the map and make a generator explode on the other side of the map. They managed that through the time of day stuff pretty well. So like, I won't spoil the specifics, but in a run I was playing the other night, I was like, I just wandered into a building, and then I was like, wait a fucking minute. This is tied to this thing that happens in the evening on this map. And I wouldn't have necessarily found it unless I happened to walk in and realize what I was looking at. And I don't know how it's going to affect the evening for me to do it, but I can somehow. And it's cool. That stuff is very cool.
There's lots of stuff like that, which is nice. And like how, you've got to make it so all these people, their paths cross, so they'll be in at least adjacent places so you can kill them all before the day is over and everything resets. Because how the game is, everything like in a loop, if you don't do like anything to manipulate their placement, like there's no way to do it. So the whole thing is manipulating people into positions.
And the manipulations to me feel a little like linear, but
they're very Hitman like story mission esque or whatever.
But there's enough, I think, of those little like, if you do this random thing, it will make it easier for you to gather the intel you need. That is cool. That I think makes it really fun. And the locations are very
stuff
different.
You can stumble on, like you can just be like, oh, I walked in this thing. You don't have to find it like in order. You can just be like, oh, I found this thing, and now I get like a hint, like oh, okay, now I'm like working backwards.
There's like an area where to enter it, you have to like make things harder on yourself. We'll put it that way. But you can find ways to get around that measure, and they're not all the same thing. Some of them are like figuring out how to get in a side entrance. Some of them are finding a code to something. Some of them are just like outright learning how to disable the system. And that is very neat, the way that all fits together. We also should touch briefly on the multiplayer too, which is cool.
So
cool
the multiplayer is, so the way this game has been built the entire time since it was first announced is you're playing as Colt, the main character guy, and then there's a woman, Juliana, who is chasing you down and attempting to kill you and stop you from like breaking the loop and killing all the other visionaries on the island, of which she is one. And so what you can do is kind of Dark Souls-esque. You can invade another person's world. And as Juliana, you can go in. It's a separate menu item. You say, oh, I want to protect the loop. You go in. She's got her own loadout, her own abilities. Then you hop into someone's world. And once you're there, or once Juliana is in your world, it closes all the exits. So you cannot leave.
Yep.
Until you either hack like the antenna that's jamming your like escape routes, or you kill Juliana and then you hack the antenna.
You have to hack them. It's just whether you kill her or not first.
Yeah. And it's a little janky. Like Juliana can mimic like the appearance and like replace her appearance with someone else's and make someone else look like her and walk around as just like a regular NPC and try to be like stealthy, but they're always like jumping up on like buildings and like looking very, if you, at least so far, like people haven't gotten like into a meta of it or something.
Well, yet. I think when you play Juliana, you can either play it like you're playing Call of Duty, or you can do what I do, which is I try to role play it because it's more fun for me. So I absolutely use the mimic ability. You can holster your weapons, which I didn't know about for a while.
Oh yeah.
And so you can make yourself really look like an NPC if you want.
Yeah.
And so I usually try to figure out where the Colt is, and then mimic. And then I'm like just sort of stealthily following them around as an NPC to see what they're doing. And you can also alert your like NPC enemies to where Colt is and make them attack him. And it's very fun when you do that and you run in as a NPC enemy off to the side, kind of. So you're not gonna be the first one they shoot. And I love to then just get right up on them and blast them with a shotgun. And then they turn to shoot at me and they're like, oh fuck, this is actually the Juliana. It's very fun. Yeah. I think the multiplayer is extremely appealing because it's also playing as Juliana is when you're playing as Colt, you're finding loot. I'm going to say loot. It's not a loot game really, but you're finding like
guns,
you're finding mods, you're finding character mods, weapon trinkets, the ability stuff. And then you're using this currency that you can collect by kind of absorbing objects that you find that are weird looking. And then you spend that currency to save stuff for later runs or later days, I should say. I keep saying run. I don't think this game is super roguelike-y. So, but for later days with Juliana, you're leveling up based on your like performance in matches. And then you're unlocking all that same kind of stuff for her. But it leads to this interesting thing where like, if you're high level Juliana and you're taking really cool stuff into a match, the other player can take that stuff if they kill you and then infuse it so they have it for later games, which is just, it's a very cool, like weird economy sort of thing going on with the way that the weapon unlocks work across the different characters. And I think it leads to a really interesting, that's why it incentivizes you to play with multiplayer on, I think. Because you can turn it off and then you'll get NPC invades from Juliana's occasionally, but they never have the cool stuff that players bring into matches. And I think that's really fun and cool. And it means that I get like excited when a Juliana invades. I don't get frustrated by it.
Yeah. Like, are they going to have a good weapon? I've had a slab
I don't have or something.
Yeah. I've had a few, and like the slabs are basically dishonored powers.
They fully are.
I've had a few interesting invasions, like, because normally you'll get like a thing like, oh, you're being hunted by Juliana or whatever it says. But I had one where either I missed it or it just didn't tell me. And like, I was like trying to make my way up into this zone I hadn't been in. And I opened a door and then just around the corner comes Juliana and starts shooting at me with a shotgun. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I got to get out of here. And then we get into this whole cat and mouse, and then like I hack a turret, and then she like came up. She didn't realize I'd hacked the turret, I guess, and then that helped me kill her. I was like, yes, that felt so good.
Yeah, and they make it so that it's frankly harder to win as Juliana than it is as Colt, because Colt has multiple lives. Juliana only has one life. Yes, Juliana can control the NPCs, but they're pretty easy to kill. So like, it is harder to win as Juliana, but that's okay, because even if you don't, I believe you still get some experience even if you don't kill. Colt towards leveling. So you can keep progressing as Juliana, and it means that then as Colt, it's not like hyper frustrating to feel, and it doesn't feel weighted against you. If anything, it feels weighted towards you. So it's a cool system. I like it. I like weird multiplayer stuff, and this fits that mold really well. And you can always turn it off, like I said.
Yes,
as Colt if you want.
So that's Deathloop.
And also, the characters are really good. The character performances are fantastic. The writing is like on the edge, where if the performances weren't on point, it would come off as annoying and shitty. But because the performances are so good, it's pretty pulpy, I think. Yes. Oh yeah. It's got that aesthetic kind of from the Colt and Juliana's interactions are really good, but then the kind of visionaries in the world they're all like lunatics, and it's larger than life in ways that it's like, I told the waiter fuck you, and then I shot him in the fucking head, that stupid motherfucker. And it's the sort of stuff that like
chill out, okay, but at the same time,
because the performances really work, I think it's good. It's the kind of writing that if like Rockstar did this writing and did Rockstar style performance capture of it, I would be like, okay, you really went for something. But they managed to like direct the performances in such a way that it feels very self-aware of how over the top a lot of it is, without making the whole game a joke, which is cool.
There's this great room where like it requires like a 3-word passcode, and if you don't have it, Colt will just stand there, and you can like keep trying to guess words, and just listening to him like try to throw out random words that he think could be a password is really funny, because he'll be like trying to say things and be like, what the fuck even is that? Why did I say that?
And they do a good job of making Colt and Juliana much more like competent than all of the other visionaries. So it doesn't feel like you're playing someone you hate. Instead, you come to really like Colt and Juliana, frankly.
Oh, that's good.
And they have a complex relationship that is more than just like, oh, we dated once and now we're trying to kill each other. It's the narrative going on is very interesting, and there's like Colt's place in it and stuff is very interesting. So that stuff works, I think, really well.
Definitely. Deathloop works really well.
It's good.
And then also things that work really well. Wario at his game company in WarioWare, get it together.
I mean,
he doesn't work very well, though.
The whole plot of the game is that they get sucked into the video game and have to defeat the game bugs. So
hey, that sounds like good work. They're getting the bugs. This is QA. Are you saying QA doesn't work hard?
Wait, Allison, how far into the game have you gotten in terms of quote unquote story?
I'm not that far, honestly. I haven't finished it yet.
So
they're still in the game.
There's some stuff you find out about Wario's role in all of this.
God. I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, I've collected all the characters, and I'm pretty far, but I'm not done yet because there's just too many video games, and I had a busy week. But anyways, WarioWare, Get It Together is the new WarioWare installment on Switch. I've been a fan of this series for quite a while, and it's fun to have it back. It's really nice that they're continuing the series, because WarioWare Gold on 3DS, which was released after the Switch came out, so I'm like one of the 5 people that played it, kind of felt like the culmination of WarioWare, I guess. And then they're like, well, we'll still make them. So I'm like, okay, that's good. But yeah, so I think the biggest conceit of this one, so other than So it's basically a lot of the same as normal WarioWare, where you're playing all these various tiny micro games in a row, and basically the whole process is figuring out how they work. I think the thing that makes this one different is that you play as all the different characters in the micro games. So basically you can bring all of the different characters into all the micro games, and they all operate in a slightly different way. Like some people are not moving, but they can throw stuff from your area. There's characters that are constantly jumping. There's characters that there's the alien who is able to tractor beam stuff up into the spaceship. So there's just a lot, but I think I like it a lot more than I thought I would, because I was like, I don't know, this is going to be different than normal WarioWare, but it adds a lot of variety to the existing micro games, because in addition to having different games, each one you have to figure out how to make that character work in all of the games, which is fun. So it adds more to the kind of just learning process of how, okay, I have 5 seconds to do this. What do I need to do to win this level? So yeah. I think that's been that adds a nice a little spice to it, basically. I don't know if I like it quite as much as something like WarioWare Gold, which is pretty much it's the gold standard for WarioWare, I feel like. I know. I thought it. I was like, oh god damn it, no. And I think it's just a really, really fun collection of stuff too. There's just like a whole bunch of content. So if you still have a 3DS lying around, I'd recommend picking that up over Get It Together. But if you're one of the many people who isn't really actively using your 3DS, and like understandable, Get It Together is still a really fun time, especially if you are a fan of the WarioWare series. So I'm just like, I love the series, so I'm very excited whenever to play that game. So
yeah, like we talked about WarioWare last week, so I got most of my feelings out on it there. But now I've finished it. I've gone through the progression. I've unlocked everything you can, basically. Like,
okay.
There's probably mini games I haven't seen.
Yeah, I've unlocked I'm basically at the point where I've unlocked all the characters and the story. But
how many of the quote unquote worlds have you been through?
Ooh, I don't know.
Not like the individual levels, but like the map boards, basically.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, because it seems like it ends at 2. But there's more.
Okay.
So
cool. So there's a lot more than I thought there would be.
If it the upside down castle.
2, yeah, exactly. If it ended at 2, I would have said it's pretty bad. Like, it would have been way too slight.
Yeah.
I think at 3 that I think it ends at 3, and then maybe there's a way to unlock more. I'm not sure. It's still slight. But it seems like it's kind of made to be replayed a lot, and especially with 2-player, which it seems like that's kind of the focus that they're going for. And I don't think that's great.
No, I haven't had a chance to play it multiplayer, and I appreciate the interest in trying something like a multiplayer, which sounds really like backhanded compliment. Like, I appreciate that is something that they're attempting, but I don't know how multiplayer and WarioWare necessarily
work together.
Goes. Yeah. And it's very, for like multiplayer kind of games like this, I would probably recommend one of the
Rhythm Heaven
Kukiyomi sequels.
Oh yeah, Kukiyomi too.
I mean specifically for multiplayer, because I haven't played it multiplayer, but there it feels like they've completely, like there's separate modes for multiplayer and single player, and they've really considered it, which is the name of the game.
Totally.
In there and made it work. Also, those games are really cheap, so like if you want kind of a WarioWare experience, hey, you could either pay $50 or in the US or $70 in Canada, Sorry. To play that, or you could pay. It looks like Kukiyomi 3 is on sale for $375 right now. So it's like,
Yeah, that's.
Ooh, it's a lot cheaper. So
I would say WarioWare is good, but it's not $70 good.
no, I was kind of not sure even about the 50. I like the series a lot, so it's kind of one of those things where I'm like,
same.
I'm gonna buy this, but
Same.
at the same time, I feel like it makes me kind of just go, man, I wish I could play Gold on my Switch, So it's kind of like that, which is not exactly great, but it's kind of more of the same for WarioWare in a lot of ways, and the ways that it's innovating are kind of a mixed bag, I feel like, because I do like how
I'd agree.
the different characters make it so that you have to really keep learning the specific games.
Yeah, but also there were specific characters I just never used because I thought their mechanics suck.
Oh, some of them do. Some of them feel like terrible to play. I tend to do auto characters so that it kind of forces me to do different ones. But there are certain characters with the mechanics where I'm like, oh, I don't want to play that character.
Yeah, like I never want to play. Is it 18 volt? Is that the dude what sits still and throws the rings out and goes to them? Like I never play him by choice. Or any of like the twin characters where they can only shoot to the right or only shoot to the left,
only
depending.
Shoot to the left. Yeah.
If because they're meant for player one and player two.
Yeah.
Cooperate. And it's like,
I don't like Jimmy T, who's the disco dude who you have to kind of shoot in different areas.
He's where he stands still and then he's just basically it's like a twin stick shooter, but you only have one stick, so you can't actually move. It's just the shooting.
No, I mean he can move, but you have to like kind of shoot him in the area.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah, sorry.
And I don't love that.
No, I was still thinking of 18 volt. Yeah, you're right. But I don't know, it's fine. It's good, but I would say get it on sale.
Oh, I would agree. And I say this as a fan of the series, and that's somebody who's like when I'm playing this one, I'm like, man, I like WarioWare, but that's if you like WarioWare less than me, then you'd probably be like, yeah, better get it on sale. And I feel like if you get it on a pretty good sale, it would be totally worth it. But
totally.
For full price, it's kind of a lot.
Okay. Well, now that we've got it all together, we've got our party here assembled. They can tell us a tale of arising.
Arise?
Tales of Arise Kujikawa.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I would play that.
So take it away, Pat or Allison.
It's funny. Allison, I think, has played more, so you can probably speak to more of the mechanics of the game. But it's funny because I bought Tales of Arise because I was really depressed last week and very much in a mood of like, I want something bright and colorful. Like I started playing Shadowbringers, and Shadowbringers is very good, but it's also very heavy. And
yes, it is.
And like I hit a point in Shadowbringers. This is not really a spoiler for Shadowbringers, but it's like I decided to go after one of the characters first who is dealing with.
Did you do Alice?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
And which, I mean, that makes me real excited for Alize's story, but Alphino's story is about like basically there's a climate crisis happening. It's more complicated than that. There's magic involved, but like this basically the world is ending and like a bunch of rich people hide in a city of like excess and pleasure while the poor people around them all starve to death and like clamor to try to get access to the city to basically be a slave because at least then they'll live in the city. And I was like, yep, this is really fucked. And I'm kind of feeling depressed this week in general. And I don't really want to do this right now. And Tales of Arise looks beautiful and pretty. And it is beautiful and pretty, but it also starts out and it's like, dog, you're a slave who has a mask he can't fucking take off and doesn't have any memory. And there's like fascist people that are enslaving your people. And it is explicitly racist people too, because it is like a different race of like humanoid beings. They look kind of the same, but it's like an elves versus humans kind of thing, sort of. And they're enslaving your people to force you to mine in order to like suck your life force out through a crystal they surgically implant in your hand at birth. It's like,
Yep.
And all these people are basically working until they die, and they have zero pleasure, zero fun. They just like work until die. It is, yeah.
it's
and
good,
then
though.
it's like a beautiful game too, and also, but it starts off in like this like kind of desert-y climate, and it is like dour and dire.
Desert would be one way to describe it. Also, fire is another way to describe it. Fire climate.
So you started saying that, and I was like, "Oh no, Pat, I'm sorry."
It's okay. It's really good, and it's not as it's a little more hopeful than where I'm at in Shadowbringers right now. So even though it's still, it's about like resistance, and you're gonna fight the oppressors and stuff. So
yep, your goal is to take down the oppressors right now. So it's definitely a lot more hopeful, and it gets there. But man, at the start of the game, the protagonist, who I don't know if you've gotten to his name yet, but Iron Mask.
He's still Iron Mask.
His Iron Mask. Yeah, he's like in such a bleak position at the start of the game. It's like
very
holy
Berserk,
shit.
Actually, like it very much reminded me of Berserk.
Where he's like,
just like 90% of Japanese media is just Berserk, but again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but man, it's so Tales of Arise is the new Tales game in that series, and it's the first one since Berseria. So it's been, I think, 6 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years or 6 years from the last Tales game, and they kind of have been approaching this as like a big, not necessarily reboot, but kind of like reinvigorating the Tales series.
Yeah, and as far as I know, it's not, if you're looking at this game, it's not like narratively tied to any of the other Tales games.
No, they really aren't. They are generally all separate, except for the incredibly shitty Tales of Symphonia sequel, which is hot garbage.
There's like some Zestria to Berseria or something.
Kind of lightly though. It's like it's very much their own game. But Arise is basically supposed to be is kind of a soft reboot, sort of. I don't know, but it is a big step forward, especially visually, and I think even gameplay wise. It's a lot of similar gameplay to existing Tales games, but it feels really optimized, which is really good. And Berseria looks fine, but it is it is a PS4 game that is not very visually impressive for a PS4 game, and whereas Arise is just gorgeous, so it feels like a really big shift.
I've been watching my friend stream it, and she got to a later game stage, like probably 15 to 20 hours in. I'm not sure exactly.
I think that's probably farther than me. I'm in the cold ice city right now.
It's after that. And she's gone to this new area, and she's playing it on PS5, and it was slowing down her PS5 with how much stuff it was doing. Yeah, so like it's stretching, it's trying it's punching over its weight in some ways, which I think is kind of good. Which I think it's kind of cool for like a JRPG to do that.
Especially for a JRPG or for a Tales game.
I played the demo, which is not super dark and depressing like you were talking about earlier. It takes place later in the game.
I think
I guess you've got the story together, but
because it also does take a while for the characters to come together too. In
the beginning is very slow.
Actually, this might be a good point for me to interject. Sam in the chat wanted he's played about 6 hours, and he had some notes. Not in our group chat. He was in the at Gaming Fyx streaming on Twitch. So he says, my take, as I'm almost 6 hours in, and I think it's pretty boring. I wish the opening few hours were longer and plot focused. I don't know what he means by longer, or I guess he wants the opening section to be more flushed out, whatever. Plot focused, they let you loose on fetch quests fighting the same enemies over and over way too soon.
Wasn't he like hyping up what was that Xenogears? Was Xenoblade earlier this
Chronicles?
year or last year? Whenever, I don't know.
Kind of by comparison, I think part of why I've liked Arise so far, I think, is like it's certainly kind of slow in the beginning, but it's also focused. Like it's very much like you're moving forward. And my problem with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is it was like, this is like an MMO city with an endless amount of people to click on, and the combat is so incredibly boring. And I'm like talking to someone
thing for me. I
and
feel
they're
like
go fight a monkey by this lake,
Right.
and I spend 10 minutes going to the person, talking to them, then running to the lake, and then the combat sucks, and then I walk all the way back, and it was like, you got to be fucking kidding
that's
me.
the thing for me with Xenoblade, where I really want to like those games a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
I've
think
tried
the
to.
one I like most is Chronicles X, which is stuck in Wii U
Rip.
jail.
For
But
now.
we'll see. I would actually really love it if they managed to put it on Switch, because I'd assume that they would fix the text size being so impossible to read,
Yeah.
which is the reason I stopped playing it, because I was like, I cannot read this, and my eyesight's not even that bad. But I think the thing with Arise that is different for me is that the gameplay is really engaging. And so even if it's the same enemies, I feel like I'm still constantly learning different ways to different combos and different ways to improve myself as a through the gameplay. So I don't necessarily mind it.
Yeah. And certainly not to say Sam is wrong to
but Sam is wrong. No.
Well, no, I think Sam also, like, I was obviously, and I have it on the list to quickly hit here too, I was obviously enamored with Genshin Impact last year, and I remember Sam was not hot on it at all. And I think while the combat in the two Tales of Arise and Genshin Impact are very different, like mechanically, they're the motions are similar, like the inputs you're pressing are similar. And so I wonder if there's also just some like, I think I just prefer the style of action RPG that Tales of Arise is to most JRPGs. And I really like, the thing I was surprised at, and you kind of touched on, Andre, with the picking up the arts thing, there's like so many different, subtly different character abilities. And they may, when you're watching someone play, look kind of like you're button mashing, but like you're setting, like, I think you can ultimately set like 6 ground abilities and 6 aerial abilities. And the whole point of the combat is to get the combo counter up. So you're trying to find ways to string 3-hit combos with abilities, and then you need to then bounce them into the air to continue the combo, because as long as you jump up into the air and take them into the air, then the combo counter doesn't reset.
And then I think
it's really interesting.
And then the default in the air ability is to kind of smash them back down too, so you can kind of like you can get some really fun movement going with the combat, which makes it really fun to juggle enemies. And
in the demo, I play as Law. I don't know if y'all have met Law, who is a martial arts, like melee.
Yeah, there's like 6 characters total.
Yeah, and they are really getting them slow into. You get your party pretty slow, which is pretty normal, I think, for Tales.
It was so you can't switch between characters in the demo. Like, you can change who your like overworld character is, but like in combat you can only play as the one in the demo. But you can choose, and you can replay and play as a different character if you want to, like, try them all out. But it sort of reminded me of Final Fantasy VII Remake in that way, where you can, like, every character you're like actually playing as them in this like 3D space, and they're all playing very differently. Law played a lot like Tifa, who was like the most fun to play as for me in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
It's
cool.
I don't think that they lifted anything from Final Fantasy VII Remake, because obviously this game's probably
and they've been doing stuff like this since like Symphonia.
But certainly I think there's shared DNA, to use the term again, between FF7 Remake and Tales of Arise.
I think it would be easy to say that Final Fantasy VII Remake probably got some inspiration from like the Tales games for how they handled combat in the remake, and it's just, and also it's a very good version of like JRPG combat, like an evolution of that stuff.
Another key thing about Tales of Arise that I think is like, it sounds silly, but it matters to me, is you get cool weapons and costumes, and then when you put them on, it reflects on the character, and it's like something that you notice while you're in combat, because it's so like action oriented. Which is fun for me. I think that's weirdly a huge important hook for me in JRPGs, when like it's fine in Final Fantasy, the way that they handle character appearance. They're very like iconic and they look a certain way, but I really like to see weapon choices and stuff reflected on the character and then feel the impact of that while playing, which I think
they did weapon stuff,
well.
but there wasn't like
they did.
There wasn't like armor, like, oh, I got a
which is fine for Final Fantasy. They at least had the weapon stuff, but I have played JRPGs where it's like it doesn't really matter what you equip on the character. They always look the same, and that does actually pull me out of it in a weird way, even though it seems minor. It's like your Destiny single exotic armor piece thing.
Honestly, I think Symphonia was maybe one of the first games where I noticed that, because all the weapons looked different, and there were some certain points where that kind of blew my 13-year-old mind. When
Final Fantasy VII did that originally too, and it definitely was
just
a big part of why I liked that game.
Light swords look different now. It's like
so I was gonna touch on this earlier, then we got sidetracked. Is normally I'm not like a fan of like 3D anime art. I think it looks like kind of weird. Like it's just, anime should be 2D. I'm putting my foot down, but I think Tales of Arise does a good job of like making it work. I think the overworld looks like really good, and then the characters don't look like they don't make me uncomfortable with like their art. I think they fit into the world really well and like mesh, and it's just like really high quality characters. I don't like not usually like I was watching someone play Tales of Symphonia, and I was like, I do not care for these character models, and that's like they're kind of like chibi kind of things. Like it's I
mean, you could say the same thing as
honestly, like part of a lot of my love for that game might be nostalgic. So that's
Trails.
I've heard it's good, but like compared to like Scarlet Nexus, I don't like the way the Scarlet Nexus characters look personally.
Oh, okay.
But I think Tales of Arise.
I like this. I generally like all that kind of stuff as long as it's there's like a certain threshold. There's certainly ones I don't, though. Like the Trails in the Sky character art looks like the actual character art in the menus and the dialogue. The little talking heads are cool, but the chibi models in the game world look terrible. But also that's just because that game is 20 years old. It's not that that's
right.
Clearly, once they had the ability to move to a different style, they took it with the cold steel.
And for being a GameCube game, I feel like Symphonia does age pretty well with the kind of cel shaded art. Just because it's
stylistic for sure.
It's definitely showing its age, but also that is because it came out over 15 years ago at this point. So
so anyway, Tales of Arise is
wild, but anyways, time.
It's good. It's a good entry point too if you're like, well, I mean, me famously I have to see the progression of the games and stuff. I was just like, no, I'm just gonna play Tales of Arise, and it's fun. It's good.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to definitely play some more after this podcast, because I was really busy this week, and I
got sidetracked by Deathloop, but like part of me wants to like really try to wrap up Deathloop next week as much as I'm having fun with it, so I can get back to more Tales time.
It like if you like really put your mind to it, Deathloop shouldn't take you too long.
It's like 20 hours, I think.
You could do it much shorter if you really wanted to, but enjoy your time with it, because Colt is very much not enjoying his time. But I hear you're enjoying your time with some Genshin Impact.
Yeah, quick check-in on it. Like, also played some World Flipper this week, so it's the quick gotcha check-in.
Yeah,
World Flipper's cool.
I'm playing it now. It's
I literally can't play it. They won't let me play World Flipper because I'm in Japan.
So stupid.
Like, it's bizarre.
It's good. You're not like missing a world.
It's fine. I enjoy it, but it's also just kind of like, oh, this is a kind of chill gotcha I can play.
Yeah, it's nice that it's in portrait mode.
Gotchas.
Like it's a portrait mode game, which is kind of rare. Sometimes in World Flipper, I get to a boss and I'm like, why is this so fucking hard? This is stupid. And I actually have to try, and it's like, come on. But anyway, yeah. I'm back on the Genshin bullshit, and it has only gotten better.
I am so close to getting there.
I still have to unlock the next like Inazuma region. I'm not quite, because I missed so much story stuff. I was so far behind. But one of the things that I was kind of waiting for was for the community to start to like figure out mechanics more and like put some recommendations for stuff together. And oh boy, did they ever deliver. That game is not simple. And it's not that I necessarily thought that it was simple, but it is you would think like, oh well, it's like 3 different moves, technically 5, because you can hold the attack button and hold the skill button, burst button, but it is a lot. And it is things like I'm reading this guide now that's like, if you want to use Xiangling as a off-field DPS, the list is assuming that you're running her with Bennett and a secondary buffer. If you use Staff of Homa and Engulfing Lightning on her, those 2 weapons each have specific scenarios where one would pull ahead of the others, but the difference is practically negligible, and you should opt for whichever weapon fits your substat allocation best. If you want to run her as a physical DPS, she excels more as an off-field pyro DPS, but you can use Crescent Pike because it's extremely strong on Xiangling due to the nature of her attack combo. It continues to surpass Primordial Jade-Winged Spear in terms of normal charged attack damage. And like,
fucking don't know what you just said at all.
That's kind of my
Did I have
Yeah.
a stroke?
Same.
it's like, there's just like some of these, like looking at like Lisa's guide, if you want to do the optimal Lisa string is tap E, normal attack times 2 until 3 stacks, fully charged E, hold E, normal attack times 2, charged attack, repeat NA2, CA1 until E is off cooldown, and then repeat the string. Like,
Okay.
so like, is this a MOBA is a good question, because I think the answer is yes. It's just in a very different like configuration, because what it turns out what you're doing is like you're building the way you have to think about this game, I've come to understand, is less you have 4 different characters who each have a basic attack and an elemental ability and an ultimate, and more you are trying to build sort of one character who has 8 different basic attacks, 8 different ability skills, and 4 different ultimates, because the way that you swap between the characters is like the way they play off of each other and stuff really, really matters in a way that is not clear when you just play the game. You really have to go digging for all this information, because they don't really surface it in the game itself, which, you know, you can certainly be critical of, but it's very interesting now getting into more of these guides and seeing it. And then, you know, the progression of that is then I have like I spent a bunch of time last night putting my entire inventory into a planner. So it tells me that like, oh, today I don't have any unique activities, so I should use my resin, which is like stamina, to defeat some animal hypostasis bosses, because I need a couple more of those, and to do some ley lines to get experience, because you don't want to waste your stamina because it's not refilling while it's maxed.
No, of course not.
So I should just do some of the more basic stuff. And I know I need to go hunt a lot of melee hilichurls because they drop stained masks, which I need 55 of. It's like, it's much. It's pretty satisfying now to be able to use all these tools and apps and guides and stuff to feel like you're you have a plan that you're executing on. It's very similar to Destiny in a lot of ways.
On top of you playing Destiny now, on top of you playing Final Fantasy 14,
the Destiny Final Fantasy so Final Fantasy 14,
they're all very different. They're very different games.
Final Fantasy 14 is just a JRPG. It has all that stuff if you want to get into it. But I'm just playing it as a story-based JRPG. So that's whatever. Fair. Destiny is a lot simpler than Genshin Impact in terms of the activities you're doing and stuff.
Get gun, click mouse.
Yeah, like certainly I don't want to take anything away from Destiny. It has complexities and builds and everything, of course, but it's it's similar to Genshin Impact in that if you want to maximize, then you start looking at more of this theory crafting stuff. But with Genshin, I find the math a little more pleasing to my brain than with Destiny. The other problem with Destiny is I'm going to keep playing it, but my friends who I was going to raid with, as I predicted, we attempted the raid one time and no one looked at how to do it beforehand. So we didn't make it past the first encounter. And then everyone's been saying, so when are we raiding? Done. For the past 2 weeks since then. So we'll see. I think we will get around to it again, but it's definitely like, I don't think people were prepared for what playing Destiny really means. So I'm kind of weighing like, how much time do I want to put into it? Because I don't want to spend a bunch of time trying to get to the max light level if we're not going to do the content that takes advantage of that.
Yeah. Even with like a crew, like Sherpaing like a crew through that, it can take, hours to get,
which is fine with me, but it's more scheduling,
it's getting
the time,
people, exactly. Getting people to have the time. 6
people to commit 4 hours of their time at once.
Yeah.
So
which is a lot.
It's just been, people have just been busy. So yeah. Anyway, Gacha's fun. I think I spent $3 on Genshin since I started playing again. So, doesn't necessarily have to be a money pit.
Start small.
It can be a money pit, though.
It can be a money pit. The thing is, though, I mean, I spent money on, I think I probably spent between $50 and $100 on Genshin since it came out, maybe. And I'm missing all but 4 of the 4-star characters. And then I'm missing, there's like 15 or so 5-star characters that I don't have, but like I have plenty viable. I could never spend money on the game again if I didn't want to, and just play through all of whatever they release with the characters that I have
until they nerf them and they make the stuff more difficult. And then you're like, oh shit, my characters aren't good enough. They
haven't done that as far as I know. Like the S+ tier damage dealers are 4-star characters, and like you can make an S+ tier team, I want to say, without even using a 5-star. And the 4-star characters are very easy to get with like free polls. So so it's not really like, I don't want to like say it's still doing the gacha thing, which preys on people with gambling addictions and is not like a positive monetization method, but it remains a game that you can really, I think, enjoy and get a lot out of without putting a bunch of money into it. I think if you want to have a lot of fun with it, like the most fun, you're probably going to want to put $20-25 in at least over the course of a few months. But I mean, in terms of developing your characters, you can speed up. You can't even speed up development of the characters because it has this stamina system. You can play for more objectives than, like, it costs like 20 out of your 160 stamina to get experience books that you use to level up your characters. You could do that 8 times and then spend $5 and do it another 8 times, and you'd have more experience books to spend instead of having to wait. But like, there's so much stuff to do. It's, unless you want to sit and play Genshin for 6 hours a night, like I'm not doing that. So I played for like an hour and a half last night, and that's how long it took me to do spend all of my stamina. So it doesn't feel like a huge limitation to me really at all, that stuff. And it's still real fun to play and real pretty. And the characters they put out look so good. I got the 5-star that is in the current character banner because I had a bunch of free gems saved up, and she is so fucking cool looking.
What sort of character would you like to see them add?
Like from an art perspective, or
from an art perspective, like from like a design, like, well, do you want like, like a panda like person?
Well, no, I actually don't want them to go into. I like that all of the characters are just like people, like humans, basically. I think that's fine because they've managed to keep them pretty unique and interesting looking. I am excited.
People can look all sorts of different ways.
Exactly. I am excited for one of the upcoming regions has like an ancient Egypt aesthetic, which I think is pretty cool. And they've shown like one character design from that, and he's pretty cool looking. So
all right. What if, just hear me out, they made like a penguin? They made a penguin, and this penguin's name was
Club Penguin's coming back.
Hey,
pool
Yes,
closed.
all just
I'm
in
sorry.
Genshin
And that
Impact.
penguin had an MP40 submachine gun.
okay, but what if that penguin was Danny DeVito?
I was gonna say, what if they just put the famous comic strip character Opus, the penguin, in Genshin Impact?
What if they put the famous penguin Pingu? And he
Or
just went
Mr. Ondo
newt,
of the
newt.
forest.
Oh, if he could play
Mr. Ondo
Pingu,
of the
I would want to play.
forest.
I would play Genshin.
Hell yeah.
Well, I guess they won't. I don't know. They could put Opus in Genshin Impact because he has a game out, I guess. Opus Starsong, which I can only assume
Wow.
is Opus the penguin playing a concert in space.
That was a inspired transition. I didn't see it coming, despite the fact that it was so obvious. Well done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Alex.
hey, sorry, I'm stunned. So
Speechless.
and I also have to write down the time marker, so it caught me off guard. You jerk. So I've been playing this game called Opus Echo of Starsong, which so for full disclosure, we got as a review key via Sam. So I'm playing it on Steam, review key from the publisher. So I didn't pay for it, but they didn't give us any restrictions on what can be talked about. There's no NDAs because the game has been fully out for like a month or something. Yeah. So we can say whatever we want. We could call the game a giant piece of poop and whatever. But I'm not going to say that.
Untitled Dark 2, the long-awaited sequel, is here.
Yeah, sure. So
a 2 in the dark, a number 2 in the dark.
Oh God, I'm not going to go down this path. So I had never heard of this game before Sam had kind of poked about it. And something that was surprising to me is that it is actually the third entry in a series, which I had no idea. The first game was called Opus: The Day We Found Earth back in 2016. The second was Opus: Rocket of Whispers in 2018. And all of them come from this Taiwanese developer called Sugono. And yeah, I had never heard of the Opus series before. And this, I kind of looked at the old ones just to kind of see what their style was, what they were going for. And the third one, the one that I'm playing, Echo of Starsong, is different. It looks like they definitely have a lot of stuff in similar with each other. They got similar elements. They've got it looks like kind of similar worlds, but it also seems kind of Final Fantasy or Tales-esque, where each game is kind of independent from each other, even though there might be stuff in common. In Final Fantasy, you got Moogles and Gil and all that kind of stuff. Totally same here. It's just totally different characters, totally different stuff, but probably same overall universe or constraints within the worlds. So I haven't played those first two games, so I'm not too sure, but that's kind of what I had, taken away from looking. But for Echo Starsong, the game itself is just very, very plot heavy, hard science fiction kind of space opera story with just an immense amount of lore. From minute one, it's throwing you straight into the deep end with just a bunch of terms that you will not understand. It's just I'm just throwing out all these terms, and it's all these factions and all this kind of stuff, and you're like, what? Okay. And you just kind of have to go with it. And the more you do it, the more you kind of spend time with it, you'll just kind of internalize the rules of that universe and the way it works and the factions that are involved and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty good. It's pretty cool. But when I watched the trailer, visually, the first thing that it reminded me of was one of the anime I talked about earlier this year, which is Vivi, Fluorite Eyes Song, which we talked about around the same time as Odd Taxi, but maybe we should talk about Odd Taxi in a bit. Anyways, so Vivi has a really gorgeous art style, just really vivid and really colorful, and just a really hard sci-fi, which this game also has. And I think when it comes to the game itself, in the trailer you get to see these 3D animated scenes that are really colorful and all this kind of stuff, but when you're actually playing it, it's a blend of a bunch of different styles, which all differ depending on what gameplay system you happen to be interacting with at that time, which I'll try and explain just like in short. Sometimes it's kind of like a side scroller with like really nicely rendered 3D environments and in-world puzzles, kind of like a Limbo or Inside or Little Nightmares or even like Forgotten Anne or something like that. Then other gameplay sections, it's kind of just like a straight up visual novel with really nice character art, and then it'll bring up like really detailed CGs like visual novels do. And then other times it's basically like FTL, where you're engaging with like resource management and base building. Like you're building up your ship that's flying through this space, and then you're navigating your ship through this large galaxy, and it's getting into like these random events as you're rolling up onto new planets or asteroids or whatever. And then like there's random encounters that have like dice rolls for these things. And actually the dice rolly parts kind of feel like a blend between FTL and Disco Elysium, because it depends on some of your stats, how the dice roll might go. And like, it'll depend on which character's doing the dice roll. And like, you can up certain characters' luck or whatever. So yeah, it's like this cool blend between the two. And just, yeah, it's wearing its inspirations on its sleeve in a really interesting way. And I think it's kind of cool. But overall, I'd say the gameplay itself is fine. Like, it's not like mind-blowingly excellent. It's not particularly challenging in any of the gameplay segments. It's not gonna make you do like intense platforming or anything like that. It's also not particularly innovative because it's pulling all these systems in, but all of it works together really seamlessly, which is great because it is these disparate systems. It is the world exploration versus the FTL-ness versus straight up visual novel. So it never overstays its welcome, and it's never getting in the way. So, but all of the gameplay is also really in service of a really fantastic narrative with really great characters. Like, the narrative has been really subverting my expectations the whole way through, where it's just like, man, it'd be cool if they did like this thing, and then they do that thing, but also like 5 times better than I was expecting, and like expanding it way further out than I would have thought they would even try, because like the scope, what they end up going for ends up being really ambitious. Like, bearing in mind you're working with an entire galaxy for scale. So yeah, the fact that they're going for a larger scope, I'm really looking forward to how they handle it. Like, I'm about halfway through. My understanding is it's about a 10-hour game, and I'm roughly 5 hours in. And I played most of it yesterday because that's when I had time, and there were multiple points where I was basically saying to myself like, oh, I'll get to the next space station or next section or whatever, save and step away. But then I would get to that section and then just kind of continue, and then continue and continue to continue until like suddenly hours had just gone by and I had to get ready for the podcast. Like, that's why I had to stop. I was like, fuck. Okay, I hit a chapter end. Okay, I'll stop. Fine. So yeah, for now, I'm really, really positive on it. And if it maintains the narrative quality and pacing and just high standards for everything it has, it's probably in pretty high contention for my game of the year. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so like,
cool.
yeah. So
sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like,
I really want to play that.
Review forthcoming, but I think you probably have an idea of what I'm going to be saying. So it's, yeah. I'm looking forward to what the latter half of the game brings, because I've heard just kind of scuttlebutt, seeing it around when I was doing my research, people are really positive on where the narrative goes. And yeah, it's been great. I think you would like it, Pat.
I think I would. I plan to play it because like, it's certainly, I love the art a lot, and
yeah, it's gorgeous.
It you know, Steam reviews have a wide range of quality and usefulness from game to game.
Yes,
however,
they do.
With a very niche game like this, they tend to be generally thoughtful and from people who are more like me in terms of their like desire to actually provide some insight into a game. And on this game, they're 97% overwhelmingly positive out of 1,400 reviews. So
yeah, and it's a relatively small game,
well.
like a small audience, but I think it totally deserves attention. And I've not had a bad experience not having exposure to the previous 2 games. It doesn't feel like anything is missing. It feels self-contained and totally like you're fine. It's a good jumping off point.
I heard about this first from Austin Walker, talked about it on one of his last Waypoint Radio appearances, and also had like glowing things to say about it. So
it's really good.
it seems like if you have any affinity for like sort of, obviously it, like you're saying, it kind of genre bends a lot, but like narrative indie games, it sounds like it's just fantastic.
Yep. If you like sci-fi, if you like if you like FTL, if you like all these kinds of things, if you like visual novels, it's got you covered.
Mhm.
You like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain?
Yeah. Precisely.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
to play it, and I'm interested to play their other games too, because they look very different from a gameplay perspective, but similar in tone, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those games you can play them on mobile. Like I think you can play them on iOS or Android if my research served correctly. I didn't see if Echo of Starsong was on anything other than PC. I'm actually not too sure about that. I only saw it on Steam.
All right. Well, that is once again Opus Echo of Starsong.
Yeah.
Review forthcoming at fix.space.
Heads up, play it. It's good.
All right. Add it to the list. Jesus Christ.
I know. I'm at that point too. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh my god.
Oh my God. Just kill me, why don't you, with all these games? God. But as we move into the news, there is one game that we'll have to wait a little bit longer for. Actually, a few games we'll have to wait a little bit longer for. First up, game got delayed. There was rumors, there was scuttlebutt. Jeff Grubb started it. He's like, oh, you're going to hear more reviews or more delays real soon. And people started thinking, oh, it's got to be Battlefield. It must be Battlefield. It's going to get delayed into 2022. Sure enough, Battlefield 2042 delayed 1 month, just about 1 month into November, out of October.
Yeah.
You know,
It's fine.
not a lot to say. I'm glad it's not a bigger delay.
Yeah, I was kind of, I mean, I've been anticipating Battlefield 2042 pretty heavily, and I was like,
Same.
some people are saying like into 2022, which may as well just be indefinite. And so I'm glad to hear that it's only a month. That's like whatever. That's hopefully it means it won't, but hopefully it means like less stress on the team. Instead, it's just going to mean that they're stressed for another month.
Yeah, but maybe it'll help like the game come out in like a better spot, so that way there can be less stress after launch. There'll still be stress, of course,
I'm
servers
still,
and patching and all that, but maybe things will be a little bit smoother at launch than otherwise.
Did they really explicitly say why they were delaying it a month? Like, were they saying this is for extra QA or this is for...
The statement was basically
like a specific reason.
It was like the transition, we expected to transition back to office work by now, but we can't. So it's led to harder. It's harder to work remotely.
Things are just taking longer.
Okay. That just sounds like they're having trouble tying the last of the system together for optimization and stuff.
Hopefully it's just related to that kind of stuff.
That happens. That's fine. I don't think there's anything to like freak out about. Like I saw some people online being like, "Oh, grr, this is the worst. Oh, EA, how dare you?" But it's like, no, it's fine.
It seems pretty normal right now with everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's still a bit of a question mark because Battlefield 5 was fairly disappointing. So I think, who it's going to be mostly the same people making this game that made Battlefield 5. So hopefully they learned some lessons from it, and it's a bit of a question mark still, but
seems great.
I don't think this delay is going to be the thing that is the problem.
No.
Definitely. Next up, another delay. This one came first, but was like, I didn't even think that this game had a date. Oh, so it was okay. Dying Light 2 Stay Human was supposed to release this year in December.
Yeah.
It has been in development for a long time. Sounds like things at Techland are not great.
Yeah, you got to go read that story if you're listening to that I'm trying to find it now.
Which story? I don't know if I read this.
Oh, Techland
is like the culture at
borderline just a front. Like it is like barely functioning based on the reporting in the story. I'll find it.
Okay. I'll make sure to add it to the links in the show notes.
Yeah. This Dying Light 2 delay is 2 months, putting it February 4th, 2022. Why not go for February 2nd, 2022? Get that 2222. Like it's Dying Light 2 on 2222. Give me
story
marketing money, people. Like
published in February by Kirk McKean over at The Gamer, who I believe recently left The Gamer.
Moved is, I think Deathloop was their last review.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
And now they're like transitioning out. But
like it has like quotes in this article, like the fish rots from the head and about how they just drop slurs into feedback about character art and stuff to describe characters that they think look too, I guess, effeminate. And like this story is, you know, it's a good reporter. Kirk's a good reporter, so I trust this information, and it makes it sound like Techland is a nightmare of a place to both work and a place that may never release a video game ever again based on this information.
Well, Techland has always been weird because it's never ever been consistent. Like it felt like you were either getting a good Techland game or a terrible Techland game. Like when Dying Light came out and Dead Island came out, those were good. But then like you had like some of the Call of Juarez games, which were just absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Like Chrome was absolutely terrible.
They had a marketing plan to drive an unmarked van to the Mexican border and offload a pile of body bags to spark an ARG.
For what?
For
Call of
Dying
Juarez?
Light 2. For Dying
What the
Light
fuck?
2.
Why?
Yeah.
Yep. It's and this is like the guy who came up with it is like one of their top people. Yeah.
Right. Yes, I forgot.
They
about
were going to
that.
send medical test kits out at the beginning of the pandemic, and like then they were going to send people like whether they have the pathogen from the game or not. Like,
right. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, look forward to that, I guess.
This story is all coming back to me. Yeah.
It's a wild ass ride. I will link it because it is something.
Yeah. So look forward to that in 2022. Maybe.
Sure.
Speaking of twos, terrible twos, Deltarune.
Hey, that's cool.
Sequel, the spiritual sequel, the anagram. Is it anagram? Is that the word?
Yeah.
For Undertale.
Undertale, yeah.
From Toby Fox, Chapter 2 of Deltarune released.
Deltarune's a good name too. It's just a cool.
Did Deltarune Chapter 1, was that when we first started podcasting, or was that that first year?
It was 2018. It was 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018.
Okay, so that was in our first year of podcasting. Yeah.
Near the end of that year. Yeah.
Well, we can't stop until Deltarune is fully out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. We can't stop till we get at least to 420.
Yeah.
See, Deltarune is a game that I think could take many years to be completed if it's ever completed, but I have faith in Toby Fox to like continue to work on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
As long as they want to.
Well, it seemed like they were saying that they weren't sure if they were going to like actually make Deltarune a full thing because like the work, but that they're keeping on it is cool. So
yeah, and I really enjoyed my time with Chapter 1. I haven't played Chapter 2 yet, but Chapter 2 is also free, so it's all still free.
Yeah, it crashed itch.io when it came out.
I know, yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, but
I've not played any of Deltarune, so I need to get on that.
Yeah, I haven't decided. I kind of want to play Chapter 1 again before I play do Chapter 2. But Chapter 1, I mean, you know, if you like the Undertale style, it is just really, the art is really beautiful. The music is, it goes hard, which you'd expect from Toby Fox at this point.
Toby Fox.
So I'm excited to, I mean, I really enjoyed the story of them too, but I'm also excited to like, oh yeah, I'm going to get some more good music to listen to and, you know, check this out. So I'm excited.
Toby Fox does not look what I expected Toby Fox to look like. I just Googled Toby Fox. I'm just like, wait,
I
excuse
don't know
me?
if I've even seen his face because I've
keep it
just
a
seen
mystery.
his. Yeah.
Keep
Yeah,
it in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there are some pictures where I'm like, is this even the same person? But anyway. Next up, our European correspondent has left, but the Switch.
They're not part of Europe, anyways.
That's true. The Nintendo Switch has had its price reduced by reduced to 269 euros. Nice.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
about a
269 nice dollars.
Yeah, it's like a £20 drop in the UK. So I don't know what that is. Probably like a €40 drop, roughly.
And
No, it's a €20,
yeah.
£20. Sorry.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to come to the States for like the base model Switch, not like the OLED, like as the OLED is about to hit.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
I
mean, the Switch is
don't know.
selling so well. They kind of don't necessarily even need to, but
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the statement.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but I mean,
Like,
they didn't
the
need to do it in
statement-
Europe probably either, but
Yeah, like the statement they put out, what seemed like it was going to be exclusive for Europe purely because of like exchange rates and yeah, they're basically citing exchange rates, and there's no they say they have no plans to do it in the US for now.
okay.
So probably not. So don't.
Sure.
I would say don't plan on it.
Yeah, don't count on that.
Yeah, but
Holidays coming up, there'll be sales and stuff, but
probably.
not on the OLED, I imagine, but on like the OG Switch.
Yeah, maybe the Switch Lite. Who knows?
Yeah, which now surprisingly supports Bluetooth like audio, and apparently could have all along.
I guess. I mean, if it just needed an update.
Like,
Yeah, I
was always under the impression that there was like latency stuff with Bluetooth that would made it like not great in like lining up the audio, which is why like the Xbox and the PS5 don't do Bluetooth audio.
It's true. Bluetooth audio is terrible.
But then, and apparently there have been some issues with this update and like not pairing with things, but
crashing the system.
yeah. But then Nintendo's just like, oh yeah, here you go, Bluetooth audio out of nowhere. Like, what?
Yeah, like if they could have done it all along.
Yeah, why did it take this long?
There was I read there was some concern about like audio quality, or that it would fuck up the like the Joy-Cons somehow with interference.
Well, yeah, there's like now you can only have I think two controllers attached, I think,
Like,
and then
so
you
is that
can't
like
attach like a third
two-
controller.
Would that be like 2 individual Joy-Cons or 2 individual Pro controllers, or is that like a set of Joy-Cons and a Pro controller?
I think it would be probably individual Joy-Cons, because like they're separate things.
Yeah.
And it's just how it's like registering them together, and then like, you could probably do like a Joy-Con and a Pro controller and then headphones maybe, but I don't know. I don't know why you would do that.
I haven't tried.
Yeah.
So
so yeah, that's the Switch news this week. Come back next week. I don't know when Nintendo does something else weird.
I don't know, man. The Switch is still weird.
Yeah. Hey, Metroid Dread almost out.
Yep.
Or like, when is that game
like
out?
a month.
Like is it?
it's-
Okay.
Yeah, it's around the same time Battlefield comes out, actually.
Well, no, because Battlefield's in November now.
Right.
October. We're less than a month away. Battlefield's November. This is October 8th, so we're less than a month out. Like 3 weeks. Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. Sorry. Original date.
Let's see. Next up, Sony news. Little Big Planet servers have crashed, and Sony decided just to not like fix it and bring them up again.
Like the original Little Big Planet.
Yeah, like
I believe
1,
so.
2, and 3 basically.
Oh yeah.
3 was a PS4 game.
Yeah,
I'd be
well, those
surprised
are
if
what
well, if it was
crashed. And I think that 1 and 2 and the Vita one, They
Yeah.
we're just like, we're just not going to spin these back up. The PS4 one has been spun back up.
This is
Yeah,
kind of why I
makes
am
sense.
very skeptical of like any of that, like Dreams included, any of that stuff of like
Yeah.
it can just die. Like if you spend hundreds of hours working on a Skyrim mod, that's always going to be playable by people, you know.
Yep.
Like
Well, now you can't delete it off Mod Nexus. We never had that in our news, but now you can't delete your own mods off Mod Nexus.
yeah, which is fucked in a different way. But I mean, like, you know,
I don't stand by my clean face mod anymore.
if you make mods for games like that, then you're going to be able to, like, I could go back and find Battlefield 1942 mods from 20 years ago and install them today. When it's based on like the whims of huge publishers' server costs, it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to put time into that.
We've seen stuff like this with Nintendo, and like Super Mario Maker has had, like, you know, people's levels just deleted inexplicably because Nintendo isn't like, oh, this is why it was deleted. They're just like, nope, it's gone. Or, you know, after time or whatever.
EA,
you know, I think
EA
the
has a history
Wii U
of it.
version. Yeah.
Like EA has a history of just shutting down like a lot of their sports game servers, right? Like 3 or 4 years after the release, they just shut it down. So if you love that game, too bad. So like it's not unprecedented, but yeah, it makes, well, game preservation, there's a reason that it's become such a huge thing, you know?
Yeah.
And Allison, I know you follow a lot of Game Preservation Society kind of stuff. Like you follow oh god, what's her name? Kelsey Lewin.
Yeah, and I do follow all of that game preservation stuff, and it is a constant thing that, you know, needs to be considered for sure.
On that note, RetroArch is out on Steam. But yeah, like and also I don't know if you've seen the MVG video that came out this week about PlayStation 4 games are now playable on PC with this really interesting emulator.
Right, yeah.
Like, and they're not like fully playable. It's like some of the simpler 2D games, but
as a start,
it's a start, and it's a big part of, like we were saying, game preservation, because if it is at the whims of the publishers or the DevOps teams of whatever, you know, Sony, Microsoft, whomever, Nintendo, and they decide, we're just not going to keep this around anymore, and that means you can't play it ever again, then that sucks big doo-doo.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's an element of all these people are doing it on their own, like the people who are doing those specific emulators. Frank Cifaldi, who does the Video Game History Foundation, which Kelsey Lewin works with. And I was just following a thread on Twitter earlier this morning where they're trying to basically bid on some Neo Geo Pocket games, and including some unreleased games, prototype cartridges. And it's like, there's a lot of interesting stuff with that, but also it ended up selling for over $13,000. So they're like, well, they put a lot of money into that, but it didn't work out for them. But it's like, you know, there is an element of the people who are making games now should just kind of make it like work together for preservation, when it shouldn't have to be on the Video Game History Foundation to be considering making an over $10,000 purchase to preserve some Neo Geo Pocket games.
Especially when you're going to make a sequel to The Matrix Online, and people can't play The Matrix Online anymore. And so, like, you know, that's just rude. And you got to make Matrix Online playable for people so they can understand the story of Matrix Resurrections.
Like, there's a lot of issues with, you know, with preserving games, because it's not just the same thing as preserving like film or TV, because, you know, because there is an element of, you know, playing something on the original hardware is going to feel different than an emulation. But at the same time, there should be more effort, especially by the game developers and game companies, to make sure that things are preserved, even if they are trying to push for you to buy the new version or whatever. Making sure that the old one at the very least exists is important, I think.
Like there comes a point where there's no point in having like a server connection required for a game anymore. Like you can patch that out, and it's not trivial to like have someone do that. Like that's work that needs to be done. You need to pay someone to do it, and companies just don't want to pay someone to do that stuff.
Right,
but,
that's the thing.
Yep.
Their solutions to a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
And, there are issues with just like over time, like difficult to play a PS3 game right now.
Yep. And
right. Yeah.
And you do see a lot of people kind of poo-pooing on emulation because it gets associated with piracy, which sure, piracy can exist there, but emulation really, like, the people who are spending the most time with it and those who are putting in the hardest work, they're doing it for preservation. And
right. And then you see a lot of game developers look to the emulation versions for porting it to a new system. Like these are a lot of the people who are putting in the early work in preserving different versions of things, different games that would otherwise be forgotten. And there's just so many games where even if like I personally don't emulate very much, like I'm a fan of game preservation, but it's not something that I do. But I mean, there's plenty of video games where I'd love to play them, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I can never afford that. There's so many expensive kind of games. So if we could, I don't know, if we could just have game devs and game publishers kind of all come together, which I know is something that's easier said than done. But
well, and it's silly because it's not. If you want to go play a game that's very expensive to purchase, it's not like the person you're buying it from is the developer.
Right.
The money's not going to Nintendo or whoever it is. The money's going to in the pocket of the collector who's selling it a lot, which is fine. But
well, there's a whole now issue where
depends
people
on
are trying to
that seller is.
Yeah.
But yes.
Where people are trying to pump up the retro game market.
Exactly. I saw some of that stuff. The price and stuff.
It is weird because like I was watching a few videos about it where a lot of people are thinking there's an element of it being artificially pumped up so that they can create a bubble so that they can cash in quick.
Oh, man. What was it? This was like 10 years ago. I can't remember which game it was. I know there was a Neo Geo cart where there was like, it had not been dumped, like there was no ROM of it, and one person basically held the only cart in existence, and he's like, okay, if you pay me $50,000 I'll dump the cart for public, so they can be out there. And it's just like, that's so shitty. It's like, yeah, you're right, like, sure, this doesn't exist anywhere else, and if it gets dumped that means the value of this physical item you have is lower, but also that's just so shitty.
It's the same mentality that exists with a lot of like people who get really offended when you say NFTs kind of suck. Like
they do kind of suck.
I mean, they do.
And
I know a lot of artists that are ignoring doing, getting easy money for that because they're just like, this really sucks. This is really shitty for not just the environment, but also for art as a.
Come on, John Romero.
Yeah, exactly. But the
sorry, Andre.
And it sucks
come on, John Romero. Like,
it sucks. I mean, come on, Lil Nas X. It's gonna keep happening with more and more.
Yeah,
the thing that is an interesting like dichotomy with the whole situation is obviously I'm of the firm opinion that there's nothing wrong morally with like pirating something that you can't like get.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's anything necessarily morally wrong. I just have I just get stressed out about it. So I'm just like,
and truthfully, like, so I work at a company now which handles things like music licensing and streaming services and those kinds of rights. So we deal with piracy. And I have also been a recording artist in the past. So as someone who's released albums, we have to deal with piracy. Every artist and all of us, we're largely fine with piracy in terms of a way to get a name further out. Like for indie artists and for smaller artists, like piracy is fine because it's a way for people who can't otherwise afford it to, spread your stuff and learn about you and stuff.
I think there's a difference between, if it's readily available on various things versus some of the games where you can only buy it in physical copies, and it's hundreds of dollars per copy. Like there are certain specific games where you're just like, ooh, that is almost impossible to.
Yeah, to draw an analogy that might hit in this particular room, like think if you are like some 12-year-old kid and you don't have a credit card, you don't have access to like Spotify Premium, but you have Spotify free, but you really want to get into J-pop. How are you going to get some of those artists that literally just you can't get access to? You're a 12-year-old kid who doesn't know how that shit works.
I think also the problem can arise where people, not that you're doing this now, or that any of us would, but there's also people who use that argument to just justify not ever paying for video games. Which is
and I think that it's complicated, and especially in that specific example, because American fans of J-pop have a reputation with Japanese music, where they're like, oh, they're just going to pirate it anyways. So it like,
because you don't put it out.
Why bother? Why bother?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, even for legal stuff, there's like, they're like, oh, they just like, we're not even going to bother releasing anything legally, and we're not really going to bother with this market.
Japan has never had
like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and Japan has.
It absolutely is, but at the same time, there is a real perception of like at best ignoring, at worst disdain towards the foreign market.
That's not new. That's not new though. In Japan, Japan has always
Japanese
been that way.
Yeah.
Like that's why in the 90s, like the late 90s, when video game media started having an internet presence, or like early 2000s, even with like GameSpot and stuff.
Yeah.
Japanese companies wouldn't send them videos or images or press releases or anything, because they were like, oh, if we release these images, they're just going to find ways to pirate it, because they didn't understand the internet. So like Japan
they're still doing that.
Some would argue they still don't.
Well, and I think it's a challenging. you just have to understand that there's like issues at both ends of the spectrum where like it's I think it's fine if companies aren't going to make a game available for you to purchase legally. I don't have a problem with emulation preserving it. And on the other end, like Deathloop has been getting review bombed on Steam because it has de novo built in, and people like get really mad about that. And like I get it, but also when they put out Witcher 3 with no DRM, they lost millions and millions of dollars in revenue to Piracy. And it proved that the DRM free model of releasing new games as a AAA studio does not work. Like CD Projekt was fine. They made plenty of money off that game. But like for a studio like Arcane that is not really in charge of its own destiny, I don't have a problem with them putting de novo on it, because I know people who I scold about it whenever I have a chance and talk to them about it, whenever they bring it up. But I know people who go, I'm just going to pirate Deathloop. I'm not going to buy it. I want to play it, but I'm not going to pay $60 for it. And it's like,
that's why I bought 2 copies.
I think that also the thing that happens with me that frustrates me is that kind of price value mentality hurts like smaller developers the most.
Absolutely. Well, it leads into the whole 30-minute game that costs $2 and people returning it after they finish it.
Exactly. Or it's like, oh, this game is worth this big AAA game. I wouldn't even pay $60 for that. Why would I pay $20 for this short indie game? That's the thing where I'm kind of like, it gets a little bit.
And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the developer of Opus can't really afford de novo licensing costs.
Probably not.
You know, like so I don't know.
It's the piracy for piracy's sake where it falls apart. Like piracy for there's no other way for me to get this and play it. The
problem is that pirates
I just want to pirate it. Then
pirates who piracy's sake often use those arguments of like the good parts in order to justify
the valid
it.
reasons.
It's so, very frustrating.
All of that to be said, I hope some of those Little Big Planet stuff, those things got backed up, because there was some really amazing things that were in there.
Yeah, and it's like I've like barely touched that series, but at the same time, it's something that really should be preserved, because people put a lot of work and people put a lot of effort into this. And
absolutely.
Also, if you are interested in perhaps in spending a lot of time on a project and dreams, consider learning to use a game engine where you could make the game and then either put it out for free for everyone or sell it or whatever.
But at least with those, you have the option of like exporting the game, even if you don't get access to the original assets and like the ability to edit it. At least you can export it.
Yeah, or use it as a jumping off point, or getting into development.
A prototyping tool, and then remake it into something
for people who
robust.
For kids who don't have access to whatever, like it's a neat tool, and like Game Maker Garage, like same thing, like
totally.
Yeah,
neat
especially
tool to get people introduced to stuff, and then go and do like a more fully featured thing. But it is definitely like in the approaching the same level of like, to me, of the fan game of like, oh, we made a Metroid fan game and here comes the cease and desist, like
right. Yeah, and it's like
spend your time better here.
Right, and it's the type of thing where is anybody really going to pick up that Metroid fan game and be like, well, this is the exact same as a legit Metroid game?
I mean, to that another Metroid 2 remake, whatever, like people seem to really like that, and then it happened to come out at, like just before it came out, just before Nintendo released a Metroid 2 remake, right? Or whatever. So that was just like weird timing, but like Nintendo, that happens all the time.
Nintendo also has the tendency to kind of go after these fan games more so than other companies.
And, it's a whole mess, but it definitely, like, they're gonna slap you with the cease and desist. Just like do something else, like make a thing inspired by, you have the talent, obviously, just do something else legally distinct.
especially with like fan games. I don't know if there's any way that you wouldn't know that's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? With like making a Pokemon fan game, I feel like you kind of have to be aware that is going to, you're going to get cease and desist.
I mean, there are a ton of like Pokemon Black and ROM hacks and all that stuff. Like the Game Freak stuff, I don't know how all that stuff goes, but like there's a vibrant community, and like there are tools to make your own Pokemon game and like all this sort of stuff. So, but people making like Nintendo games, that's where it gets weird.
And it's like that the chances of you getting hit with that are high.
But I guess like, and we can probably continue on after this, but like then you run into things like Temtem, which is it's a good you get like DokeV, which is going to come out, but like those don't have the built-in user base that's going to check out your work, and it might be a lot more work to make all this original story and assets and systems and all that kind of stuff. So people cut their teeth by making remakes. They emulate the things that they like, and the fact that they get so harshly rebuked and punished for doing so it's rough. And
some ways that can like raise profile and like, oh, well, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna fix, change this stuff and blah blah blah. But it's a whole. I mean, it's a mess. This whole industry is a mess.
I mean,
Dan Salvato, the guy what made DDLC, didn't he get his start from?
He got his start with Smash, right? Like
doing
Smash
remakey kind of So legitimate developers get their start.
100%.
Through emulate, well, not emulation in that sense, but emulating the things they really care about. So anyways,
we got two more news stories here. We'll skip to the least interesting one, which is THQ had a showcase that I had no idea was happening.
I didn't even know that it actually happened. I just saw that one of those games get announced, and I was like, oh, huh.
Did Mark
shout out to Mark,
put it together?
Maybe. And I guess 6 games were announced, or maybe more. I don't know. Outcast, is that 2? I don't even know what this is.
Outcast.
Oh, Outcast is a cool game. You should
dig
up. C, not
exactly.
A K.
Okay.
Outcast was like when I was a kid, I had the demo disc that had Outcast from PC Gamer on it, and I was like really obsessed with playing Outcast someday, but I never, like, my parents never got it for me. And then once I could play it as an adult, I was like, this hasn't aged very well, but
Missed the window.
it's a cool concept.
Destroy All Humans 2.
All Humans?
Reprobed.
Ultimate.
Destroy All Humans. All Humans 2.
It's so weird that they're making just remakes of Destroy All Humans games instead of like
Instead of
making a
new
new
ones.
one.
Yeah.
Well, they
Also,
gotta
those
bring
games-
back. Yeah, I don't know.
The writing and humor in those games is really dated and
Does
not
not
cool
hold
anymore.
up. Mm-mm.
And it's funny that instead of making a new game, they're
Wasn't it a lot of it about like probing butts
a
and
lot
stuff?
of anal probing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, this one is literally called Reprobed.
Yeah,
So-
a lot of non-consensual
Oh, subtle. Okay.
butt stuff going on in these games, which
think-
I'm not really
Fair
a
enough.
I think
fan of.
so. The first one takes place in the 50s. This, I think, Destroy All Humans 2 takes place in the 60s.
Yeah,
And
Okay.
I don't know why. Like, I played these games when I was a kid.
the games are
and
fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I never
there's
played them, but
gameplay-wise,
I was always
totally.
kind of interested. They seemed
Yeah.
interesting.
There's a character in Destroy All Humans 2 named Coyote Bongwater.
Yep.
That is like, I don't know.
The-
That is
Wow.
stuck in my
Writing
head
in those
for
games
like
sucks.
Wow.
it is.
It's one of those things that would stick in your
like
head
I don't
for
know, fucking
rest of your life.
16 years that has been kicking
But
around in my skull.
Structurally, those games are like
Wow.
brain candy to me because they're like you like have levels and there's a bunch of objectives, almost like a Tony Hawk level, but you're running around as an alien doing stuff. They were very appealing. I should play the remake at some point of the first one, even though the story and humor sucks.
It was the early
This-
2000s. That was all the rage.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but-
speaking of things that were all the rage in the early 2000s, this one's for my brother. MX versus ATV Legends.
Oh yes, I'm so excited that they're bringing this back.
Wow.
I love MX versus ATV so fucking much.
That was
I-
I forgot about that series completely.
That series ruled.
Huh.
Next up,
Dang.
Jagged
It has an
Alliance 3.
I haven't played a Jagged Alliance game.
Me neither.
They're good tactics,
Okay.
you know.
All right. This looks like some sort of tactics game. This guy looks like he's putting a pawn on some sort of holographic globe.
It's like a
Superpower
4X,
3.
like a grand
Okay.
strategy sort of thing. I don't think
Oh, I
these
guess
games
it's
are very
that's
well regarded, but
Okay. And last, I don't know. I think this is new. SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake.
I think that is new.
Oh.
I don't know. That was the one where I was like, oh, I guess they're gonna make a new SpongeBob game, and then apparently there was a whole THQ showcase. So
Yeah, I guess
I don't know.
it's a new game. I don't know.
I
A 3D
feel
platformer.
like,
people like the SpongeBob games, I guess.
yeah, I feel like
People love SpongeBob.
when
Me
THQ
included.
died, everyone lamented the loss of the B game. And now that we have them back, maybe it wasn't such a loss.
Well, I think back when
It was
indies
more
weren't as
of like
prevalent,
yeah.
the B games
sure.
mattered more.
Now indie developers just make fucking rad ass indie games.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
Totally.
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
mean they
like
did then too, but on a
Yeah,
smaller
there's-
there were fewer of them.
like there aren't. I mean, there are now. Like there was a loss of the MX versus ATV games, like
Sure.
Destroy All Humans type games. Like those
Yeah.
kinds of things disappeared for a while,
But
and now they're coming back. But it's the same shit. Like Destroy All Humans 2 is just coming back,
But I think
and not like something new that like is in
I
like,
think part of
same
the problem
kind of shit. Yeah.
is MX versus ATV ruled because I could go to GameStop when I was 14 with $15 in my pocket and buy a used copy of
Mhm.
MX versus ATV, whatever, for PS2 for $10 and have enough left over to get a soda. Whereas like now it's like that game's going to come out and be $50. And I
Mhm.
don't want to fucking pay $50 for whatever I'm
For
sure
MX
that's
versus
will be,
ATV. No.
frankly.
Yeah.
I mean,
course
not that maybe it'll be good and deserve that, but I don't want to buy a game about riding motocross bikes for $50 personally.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like it's sure it'll go on sale on Steam eventually, but by that
Yeah.
point, I'll be well past caring about
Totally.
it.
What
Yeah,
if?
Oh.
What if
Oh.
MX versus ATV versus F1?
Capcom? Oh.
that's,
So
that's
the
better.
problem-
That's better.
That is because the problem is
Chris Redfield punching a
There's-
motorcycle.
there's games that try to do that, and it's always like they have like Forza Horizon has a sort of F1 facsimile car in it, and it fucking sucks. And I never drive that thing because it blows ass.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, but MX versus ATV versus Capcom. Now we're talking.
There we go. Make the bikes fight. Make the romance options for the bikes, and make them.
Oh, you got to do that.
Hell yeah.
Make the bikes
Yeah,
kiss.
What was that stupid Loco Cycle? Bring Loco Cycle back, but not
MX versus ATV versus Loco Cycle
versus Capcom.
Versus Capcom.
I want these games to be cool, and I mean, people work on them and stuff. I don't mean to belittle what people are doing, but the studios. But it's also just kind of like the quality bar is pretty high. Like, I don't know what Riders Republic is filling a similar gap to something like an MX versus ATV Legends, and it's cool in ways that, and moves things forward in ways that I sincerely doubt MX versus ATV Legends will. Maybe I'm wrong, but
it's kind of like how A Hat in Time kind of carried that torch for, like, 3D puzzle platformers, or like Ukulele tried, like it's.
And I guess like then Double Fine made Psychonauts 2, which sounds like it's fantastic, and
that's true.
Sort of does that, like I don't.
Yeah. So it's not impossible.
I guess there are still kids that are going to GameStop with $15 in their pocket, and maybe these kinds of games still serve that purpose for them. But I feel like as an adult, I just have so much less water for them, because it's like there's more games to play than I have time for.
Yep.
I don't really have time for games that don't quite get there.
If you're going into a GameStop with $15, there's only one thing you're walking out with, and it's a Funko Pop.
Oh God, I knew you were going to say that.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
Or a copy of like MLB The Show 2017.
It's too bad it's not Sneak King.
Oh man.
And game preservation is solely in the hands of like Dave Lang and Jeff Gerstmann on that one. They've got all the copies somehow.
They're in a landfill somewhere.
Did you see the video Dave Lang posted from his new car?
No. Oh, of him playing 6 in the morning or whatever. No, what was it?
No, it was a video of, he's like, oh, I got this new car, and it's just showing like his, like the entertainment system of a car. And then he pushes a button and the entertainment system lifts up, and there's just a fucking hamburger behind it.
Living the dream.
I hope that there's a heating element in the car that clicks the hamburger.
Like the KFC console.
I'll post it in our group chat, and whatever, I'll put it in the show notes. But
I haven't seen that. I would like to watch that.
It's linked in our chat.
I just saw it. It's only a few seconds.
Yeah.
I would like to see the hamburger.
I thought you were gonna say it was someone dressed up as the Sneak King was right outside the car.
I know, me too. I thought Sneak King was gonna show up in there. I was like, ooh, how?
That would be pretty funny too.
That'd be pretty good.
Anyways,
that tweet should be fucking viral. Like, why is this not
somebody making it into an NFT?
God, don't say that. Well, thank you, Dave Lang, for that. That is.
What else would you put there other than burgers? It's like a pocket.
Sunglasses.
It doesn't look wide enough for sunglasses.
Maybe.
Just if you want it to go viral, just say that
like
burger
granola bar.
That burger is submissive and breedable, and it'll go viral in a second.
Oh my God.
Speaking of submissive and breedable, submissive and breedable, we've got Final Fantasy 14. It's got Catboys coming, and there was a letter from the producer. I don't know what any of this is.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's way too much for us to talk about here. We would be here for an
John
hour.
Romero tweeted, "Hey everyone, I heard you loud and clear. Thank you."
Yeah, right. Everyone in the replies to his NFT fucking AMA was like, "Yo, this sucks."
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, the letter from the producer happened, and there's way too much for us to talk about. It was like a many hour event with like very detailed looks at a ton of stuff.
I don't care about like patch notes stuff. Is there like community or like philosophy, or I don't know, was there anything like noteworthy outside of the game related to the game?
Well, they're releasing some new back scratchers, like physical items that you can purchase for you. One of which is the fat cat, and the other of which is the great serpent of Ronka.
Okay,
So
sure.
yeah, but no, there is like more community like
they-
the interactions you're going to be having in game kind of stuff. Like yes, there was some of that kind of stuff detailed. There was also a lot of time given to the new jobs, like changes to jobs, and like every class in that game has had some significant changes. So if you or it has significant changes coming,
starting in the next expansion, or like now
with Endwalker.
Okay. So if I go
like
back right now, I can still play my Dragoon, but if I go back at Endwalker, I'll be like, oh.
Yeah, like they're changing everything pretty significantly except for Scholar. Like Scholar seems boring, but everything's basically got a new moveset. Like some jobs are just like completely fucking different. Like it's kind of like it's almost like they're a completely different new thing. So they're kind of going the Dota approach of balancing, which is being willing to just change shit like crazy, and instead of nerfing, they just buff everything a billion times.
I think WoW has kind of done that in a way. I'm unfamiliar with it, but like, things just, numbers just get bigger, and you just keep letting the numbers get bigger so people can feel good. And
well, it's not even the numbers. Like this is completely different systems.
Yeah, and change the systems, and they've done that. I think it's healthy for the game to evolve so it doesn't get stale.
I mean, it's hard to know what the future is after Endwalker, but it sounds like it's going to be a pretty big narrative reset after Endwalker. Endwalker is going to tie up in a lot of narrative threads. So I wouldn't be surprised if they also do a kind of gameplay crunch or reset as well, in terms of like things like their leveling curve.
Everybody's back to level 1, baby.
I don't think it'll be
roll a new character,
but like
WoW, your entire inventory, all your locker stuff, it's gone.
WoW was like you could get up to like level 120. And then they crunched it with the last expansion back down to 1 to 60. They didn't make people start the grind over again. If you were 120, you were level 60 after the patch. But like they just reset all the numbers because it was like, okay, this is out of hand at this point.
They don't fit on the screen anymore.
Although I will say, Final Fantasy, you already have like 8 million health or whatever at the max level. That's an exaggeration, but you have like the health is like Yu-Gi-Oh numbers. So I don't know.
Hey, wait, Yu-Gi-Oh, you have like 8,000 health, don't you? Has this changed in Yu-Gi-Oh?
No, you're right. It's more than I thought you had like 20,000. Maybe it's 2,000.
No, it's like 8,000.
No, it's like it's like in that 2,000. It's in the single thousands.
Depends on the style, the anime you're watching.
It's more like Genshin Impact numbers.
When I was playing, when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, this is the second time today I've talked about playing Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid.
God.
This is like getting into like what in my day.
Fucking guys.
I had a Japanese like tutoring session earlier, and the topic for the lesson was supposed to be what is my favorite game. And I was talking about Witcher 3. And I was like, oh, and then they made like spin-off games called Gwent, and the card games like Triple Triad, Triple Triad, or like Yu-Gi-Oh kind of like, different. And then we talked about how we both played Yu-Gi-Oh when we were young, and so there we go, full circle. I didn't expect that to happen.
But yeah, for the letter from the producer stuff, I'm gonna leave a link in the show notes to Michael Higham. Is that how you pronounce it? I've never known.
Higham.
Higham.
Yeah, Michael Higham.
So Michael Higham, he did a big old thread as it was going on, kind of detailing everything, and he's just a naturally very excited and rad person. So if
Final Fantasy 14 editor at Fanbyte, or one of the writers at Fanbyte who's focusing on Final Fantasy 14
head or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. He has a lot of details. If you want just kind of someone's reaction without having to watch the full like 3 or 4 hour event, then there you go.
All right. Yoshi P is 48 is just one of these tweets. Okay.
I love it.
Speaking of loving it, I love our runtime, but we got to wrap up.
We do.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode 190 of the Gaming Fyx podcast on September 18th, 2021. I've been your host, Andre Cole, aka The Wet Gamer, aka your partner's favorite IKEA furniture. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W, and on Twitch on Saturday around noon Pacific time. I'm going to be making my way through Resident Evil Village on Village of Shadows difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty. And I haven't played that game since it came out, and now it is the hard as balls. So come join me and watch me suffer through that.
Does it build in any like randomizers for items and stuff, or is it just
different? There are different enemy placements from. It's not like randomized, but it's different from the initial playthrough. Like different enemy placements, they show up earlier. Different item placements. Yeah, it's
scary.
It's different. So yeah, Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays on Twitter.
Allison.
You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENY21.
And Alex.
You can find me playing Opus Echo Starsong some more while Cookie Clicker runs in the background.
Great. And you can find a review of that in the near future at fix.space, where you can also find Sam's review at SGCH on Twitter of Life is Strange True Colors. Thank you to Jeff Davis. The name just like disappeared from my head. Thank you to Jeff Davis at Stranger Peace on Twitter for our wonderful theme music. And
for existing,
yes,
that too.
For their wonderful Twitch streams and all that good stuff. Just a delight. And thank you to you, the listener. Stay wet, gamers.
Why does it catch me off guard every time still?
I know.
It's my brand now. I got
brand
merch.
that you're unfairly forcing upon the rest of us.
Hey, that's how you make a brand happen, right?
I suppose that is how brands happen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Unfortunately.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.